that we're starting later than 6 p.m. Thank you all for joining us. This is the meeting of the Monterey County Committee on School District Organization. And just so you know, we have various items that we'll be covering on the agenda tonight. But if you do want to give us public comment on these items, please fill out a card for us and note the agenda item that you would like to address us on. That would be helpful for us. And so let's go ahead and get started. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
County Committee Member Chair Annette Eastside.
Here.
County Committee Member Vice Chair Sandra Ocampo. Present. County Committee Member John Pearson. Here. County Committee Member Heather Owen. Here. County Committee Member Virginia H. Mendoza. Present. County Committee Member Mary Claypool. Present. County Committee Member absent with notification Jaime Fernandez. County Committee Member Dr. Janine Betts.
I'm actually secretary of the county committee, but I am present. Thank you.
All right, we're going to start the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Gass, will you lead us?
Please place your right hand over your heart and join me in pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Communications, we've received some correspondence on an item later on in the agenda, actually several items on the agenda, and we will address those later. Are there any comments from the public on items not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Board, Chair, President, all of you. Thank you very much for the time. As I was going through some of your materials that you post online, there was one in particular. There's it's a 137-page document. It's about 3 megabytes in length. It's a scanned graphical image. It's not accessible. There's no optical character recognition or OCR ability in there. The only way you can enable that is if you have a subscription to Adobe. I've gone through this with the county and several city councils before. It's relatively easy to fix. When you generate these materials, you want to generate them with OCR capability. First of all, for people that are blind or limited sight or use tools to read these documents, it's impossible for them to access this information. So I would just kindly request that you be sensitive to that. A lot of people are machine reading these days because they're uploading into various platforms, AI platforms, to do the reading for them and to suss out their ideas, their thoughts, or their comments, whatever it may be, their letter writing. So I just please request that you be sensitive to access for the public for these documents and to just let your administrative staff, or teach them, if you will, how to present this information to the public in a way that's accessible for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to proceed with our agenda. We have our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Or no?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have item number 4, and particularly 4.1. This has to do with the State Board of Education meeting that occurred on November 6th. I will turn it over to Janine to introduce the item.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm happy to give a very quick update. And I am also wishing to let all of our county committee members know, as well as our audience, that this item was also recorded. And so you can access the State Board of Education recording to hear the full item. And we also do have a shorter version. If you'd like us to send you the link, we can also send that to you as well. So very quickly, just to recap what happened at the State Board meeting, we had both the petitioners for the Greenfield unification petition that came before this county committee. Oh my goodness, I think it was back in 2015, and then I think it may have resurfaced in 2018. Anyway, this particular matter has been going on for the last 10 years, and it now has come before the state board. So we had the petitioner, the Greenfield Elementary School District, and the South Monterey Joint Union High School District present at that meeting. Each district was given 10 minutes to make their presentation. State board staff gave a recap of everything that has transpired in the last 10 years, including the most recent updates, because as you may recall, this county committee supported a continuation of that particular matter twice, trying to see if we could resolve it at the local level. What transpired was that after hearing all the presentations, and I want to say about 30 public comments from the Greenfield community, the state board made this decision, and that was to ask the county committee to continue the hearing to July 2026, where it will then come back to the state board meeting at that time. And they gave direction to the Monterey County Committee, and I'm reading directly the quote, to work with all of the parties involved to come up with a plan that is workable for all of them. And this motion was taken after Mike Fine, because I think this is an important part of the meeting, shared with the state board members that it would be very difficult to do a unification even after the loan was paid off, unless there were two unifications. A unification in the city of King City between the elementary school district and the remaining high school, which would be King City High, and Greenfield Elementary with Greenfield High School, simply because the way that high schools are funded, it would be very challenging to leave one high school as a single high school as a district. And that's just by the nature of how the state funding comes in and how high schools have to work and all the various classes that they offer in a master schedule. And so from now until that July board meeting, we will be working with all the parties involved, trying to see if we can come up with a local plan to resolve that matter. And Annette, Marguerite, let me defer to both of you.
Yeah, it's the next item. I actually am also curious to see if anyone in the audience is here for that matter. Okay, that we still want to have the county committee hear this information, because other than myself, none of the rest of you were in Sacramento with us, so and this is our next meeting, so we should have a report. So let's go ahead and move to item 4.2, which is our legal counsel's presentation on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have the presentation up?
He's giving us thumbs up.
Oh, there it is.
It's coming.
There it is. Okay, so I was at the State Board of Education meeting too. It was a long meeting. Everybody was engaged. Everybody was courteous and very informative for the State Board members. And the purpose of this presentation is to bring the county committee members up to speed. What I was so pleased to hear today is that you can go listen to the State Board meeting yourself. And there were presentations by Greenfield by King City. The president of the board of King City was there. And there was also a presentation by the high school district, South Monterey County. So all of this is happening in a particular legal context. So I just wanted to give you an overview of what the board did and how it fits into the legal context in your authority. And I've proposed a general timeline for getting this done. But it's only general because of course everybody's schedules needs to be taken into account. We've got to have another hearing or two out in the county. So it's going to be a bit intense. And it's going to take us into April of next year in order to get this matter back before the State Board of Education in July. So let's get going. Let's see if this works. Would you like Adam to advance the slide? Do you want to do it or how do we, which one?
The one on the right?
The one on the right? Try again. No? Do I do it from, okay, thank you. Okay, so, whoops, next slide, please. Thank you. So, Dr. Gus read to you, thank you. Which one, this one? Good, okay. Dr. Gus read to you the language that is from the oral presentation of the state board. We will get an actual order from them. So we'll take a very close look at what that order says. But in essence, the direction was to return this matter to the State Board of Education at its July 2026 meeting, and for this committee to bring forth plans and recommendations for the reorganization of the entire South Monterey County Joint Union High School District. So where did this come from? Oops.
It's got to be me.
Next slide.
Yeah, oh, there it is, all right. Dr. Gus discussed how this came up. We were up at the 10-year anniversary almost of the petition for unification by the Greenfield school districts. Historically, there has always been one major impediment to that unification, and it's been the I-Bank loan. But that's very temporary. That can be solved over the years. It's kind of solved itself because the high school district is now in very good shape. And in the context of an appropriate reorganization, that I-Bank loan could be resolved very quickly. But the major issue that remains without the financial issue is the question of the health of the high school district. It's right now being monitored by the superintendent's office with the oversight of FICMAT. And that issue remains whether the I-Bank loan is there or not. And the presentations of many of the participants at the state board recognize the critical status of the high school district in considering the unification of Greenfield, but there was also great support for the Greenfield community. What really changed the day was FICMAT's testimony, who's intimately involved and knowledgeable of this whole area, that the solution for, or the answer for Greenfield and the solution for South County is a reorganization of the entire area. Statutory authority for this is in the Education Code, section 37520, which permits this committee to come up with plans and recommendations for the reorganization of any school district under the direction of the State Board of Education. So that's essentially where you are. What can you do? There are statutes, many more than one, about the possible issues that you can consider in the reorganization proposal. Certainly the key issues are going to be the 9 criteria. but those have been studied as recently as this year. So those are actually under our belts right now. But there are other critical issues such as the area of an election, size of the boards of education of those boards of trustees of those school districts, whether this proposal will be voted on as a single proposition or as on two separate propositions. That's going to be a subject for you to decide. And also the election of the first governing board. When does that occur? And assuming that the recommendation is going to be two unified districts, there's going to be a good deal of cooperation that's going to be required. And these are all in statute, and you can talk about them at the appropriate time. So moving to possible timeline. Feasibility studies are mostly complete, but they're one for Greenfield, one for the unification, the King City side. Just technically, those two have to be meshed for the benefit of the county committee. You're then required to adopt your tentative recommendation, and you then hold public hearings on that tentative recommendation. While those public hearings are going on, you need to complete CEQA because it's a large reorganization, will have impacts on transportation areas, many different items. CEQA will be going on sort of behind the scenes while you're considering the public hearings and possible tentative recommendations. Right here in about the April timeframe would be a good timing for the county committee to adopt its final recommendation. And in late April, the final recommendation, feasibility study, the full record, and CEQA would be transmitted to the State Board of Education. Generally, they want materials 2 months ahead of time to get their agenda ready, and that's why this seems to stop quite a bit or recommending completion quite a bit in advance of July. But there is a good deal of work to be done here, but there's also very good background because under the sponsorship of your secretary, the superintendent, there have been public hearings in all of these districts on these issues. So it's not going to be that brand new for them, and there are actually very thorough feasibility studies. So, anything more, Denise, on this one? Deneen, on this one? No.
Other than the fact that we have, as you know, been working with all the districts involved already, and we will continue that work to be able to meet this timeline.
Okay, any questions on process?
I do have a question. My first question to you is what would be, and you mentioned it a while ago. If we were to vote it as a single proposition, what would be the protocol to follow through?
That will be a vote. When you receive the items that you need to vote on to come up with your final recommendation, one of the items will be that. In this particular case, you need to consider that the reason this matter came back to you is because if there's a single unification, the impacts on the high school district are unacceptable, both educationally and fiscally. So ideally, you would consider whether this is voted on as a single proposition. 2 unifications, the high school district is dissolved. South County has 2 unified districts, likely with the little tiny districts on the outlying part of the high school district opting out of the unification. That will also come before you. You have to vote on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My second question would be, through the process of determining the 9 criteria in the Constitution Code, Section 35753, what were the most sensitive variables of borderline criteria?
The most sensitive, and it's interesting the way these cross over, were the fiscal, well, number one, the division of assets and liabilities because of this iBank loan. And then the fiscal health criterion, which is the ninth. And they all work together and cross over at the educational programs. When you have a single high school district with a huge overhead and one school, what are the educational opportunities you're able to provide for those children? So it's division of debt, but that's gonna go away. The iBank loan is resolvable. It's the fiscal health of the high school district and the impact on educational programs.
The next question was, I have tomorrow, but I'll wait until some of the trustees get in. I think my second question would be, how confident are you with the enrollment projection for both districts? And specifically, birth rates, housing, development, and mobility.
And this is with regard to South County. How confident am I? That's a lie. I think that's an excellent question because you look at the history of all of our school districts and we're in a period of declining enrollment. That could turn around. There's many political and personal factors that impact that. I hate to tell you this, Trustee Ocampo, but I'm not competent to answer that question. We do have our consultant here who has looked at the numbers. The state is cognizant of declining enrollment and has softened that fiscal blow that automatically happens with new provisions in the Ed Code. And that is a guess how low it's gonna go.
Thank you.
Well, clearly these are enrollment projections, so the results are not going to match what is projected. But in all of these districts, when they've had demographic studies done, it has shown a continued decline. The high school has actually grown a bit, so there's kind of this wave going through the system, but the birth rates, as you said, are lower right now, so eventually that will. Now, consolidation does mean that you are consolidating to fewer number of school districts, so consolidation does help that way, and it certainly helps to reduce the cost of administration. So the feasibility study you get related to this will go into more detail on all of those factors. Okay?
Can I also just add, we were just in Greenfield today, they are not experiencing declining enrollment. The superintendent just shared that with us today. Yes, they continue to maintain solid numbers. I'm not sure off the top of my head about King City Elementary. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to now the part of the presentation from Christy White, which is the territory transfer feasibility study from Spreckles to Washington Union. I know you gave us a detailed feasibility study and you're gonna do a presentation for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, committee members, and Dr. Guest. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm presenting on the 9 criteria, which are requirements in any reorganization of school districts. And I'm going to try to use this. Not Marguerite knows how. Let's see. Okay. So the petition itself is a citizen's petition. 25% or more of the citizens in the territory that would be transferred from Spreckles to Washington Union School District. There are 197 parcels and 175 homes. Now you have a copy of their petition, so I've just kind of pulled out some of the rationale that they have in there, and I know you're going to be hearing from them a little bit later. But one is that there's kind of a long-standing intergenerational inter-district enrollment trend in the area, and I'll speak to that a little bit, why that is. and the proximity to the Washington schools, particularly the Toro Park School, which is within a mile or two of the area, and also the community center within this territory. Another reason was the transportation logistics, which is something that I looked at, as well as the neighborhood school connections. So the study was done by soliciting input from both school districts as well as the petitioners, also evaluating the public hearings, the comments that were submitted, both orally and in writing. I also did extensive research in the petition area, on the region, on the school districts themselves, and I obtained data from the school districts as well as the county office, the Department of Education, and other sources. So we're going to go through each of these criteria and determine whether or not the study found that they were substantially met, okay? So the word substantially is in there, so that means it does allow for some measure of materiality. But first I want to kind of look at this territory area. The map that you see here are the 175 homes in what is known as the Creekside area. It's known as the Toro Park corridor and parts of Sarah Village. And we're going to see that it connects with the Sarah Village along this corridor. So here's the boundary line right now between Spreckles and Washington Union, the district boundary line in red. Okay, so we're on Highway 68, and there's Portola Drive, which runs adjacent to Highway 68. And there is a commercial area. You'll see the pizzeria is there. There's other commercial shops in that area. And that's where the dividing line is. So in the Washington area, there's mostly single-family homes. And that continues across the dividing line to the Creekside area, which is the territory that's under consideration for transfer, all the way up to that fire station number 1, okay? So you can see that the footprint, if you will, is kind of contiguous, even though there is this dividing line of the school districts at that juncture. So the fire station is the northeast terminus of this territory transfer. It's where the petitioners stopped. And beyond that are multifamily homes. There's a condo development as well as commercial development. And kind of why this dividing line is there. Obviously, the petitioners can talk about that, but from my observation, there is a different kind of character to the community, but more than that, there's transportation challenges. So there is a roadblock that's put up in the morning going on Portola Drive, going east to west at the fire station. And this area is closer to Spreckles than it is to Toro Park or the other Washington schools. Another thing to consider is that without including this in the area, there would be additional ADA to be considered as well as assessed valuation. So the territory itself is as described and in the petition, and so my study is strictly limited to what was in that petition. So in terms of the distances to the schools, Toro Park Elementary is 2 miles from the territory. It is potentially walkable or a short commute without going on to Highway 68. And the other schools for Washington and Spreckles, they're all about the same, between 4 and 7 miles. So there really isn't much difference there in terms of transportation. I think added transportation time comes from the commute that happens in the morning. That is heading from Salinas to Monterey. And so drop-off times at Spreckles is then extended by about 10 minutes, and I looked at this for those that live in the territory transfer because of the road blockades that are put up at that fire station. So that just kind of gives you a sense of where this territory is in relationship to the two school districts. So in terms of transportation, before we move off of that and get into the criteria, I did look at the bus routes and I looked at the times from both school districts. And right now, Spreckles is running 2 bus routes, and the longest one is the one that picks up in the territory, and it's an 80-minute ride, so it's not really practical, particularly for younger children. And by comparison, Washington has a shorter bus route of 30 minutes. So that kind of also complicates this transportation question, I guess, for those in the area. And as I mentioned before, that Toro Park School being so close by is attractive, of course, for parents with younger children. Okay, so let's get into the criteria. The first criteria is the reorganized school district will be adequate in terms of the numbers of pupils enrolled. So both school districts have less than 901 students, but they are also both direct service districts, meaning that added services are provided by the Monterey County Office of Education. So the transfer itself, currently there's 30 students that live in this area, okay, 30 students. 9 are already on inter-district transfer to Washington, which means that there are going to be an additional 21 that would transfer. That is 2.5% of the enrollment. It's not creating any additional need for services, you know, just kind of as an aside, but it becomes important a little bit later on when we look at the financial side, is both of these districts rely heavily on inter-district transfers. In fact, Spreckles permits 59 pupils to attend Washington, 9 are in this transfer area. So overall, the districts would be adequate in terms of the numbers enrolled, given no creation of a direct service district, and this criteria is met. Okay, the next criteria is that the districts are organized based on substantial community identity. And these districts are in very kind of rural areas. But in this territory, the geographical boundaries are aligned with the housing developments that are in that area. So, you know, throughout this area, there's the common topography, demographics, language, and heritage. But there is the, you know, shopping center that's there in that Sarah Village, which residents of the territory have access to. There isn't any, you know, clear and separate shopping areas within Spreckles. There's some, but the territory itself would more likely access that small area that they have, or like everyone in this area, probably commute into Salinas or maybe into Monterey. So the criteria for community identity is substantially met. The next is the proposal will result in an equitable division of property and facilities of the district. So equity is important here, and the Ed Code provides different methods for achieving that. So whenever you transfer territory from one to another, then obviously the students transfer, and there should be a consideration whether any other assets or liabilities should go with the students proportionally. There's no real property in the territory, so there would be obviously no schools to be transferred, and any debt associated with the schools would remain with Spreckles. This doesn't affect any employees, and they would continue to be employed by their respective districts, and any benefits that have accrued would not be affected as well. There is an estimated 3.6% shift in average daily attendance, ADA, and a 5.1 shift in assessed valuation on the real property. So in theory, there could be a division of the fund balance at Spreckles of approximately $200,000 to Washington if it were deemed equitable. But this is a negotiated process. Generally, the monies follow the students in which they were derived. So there could be an argument to do that, but there also could be an argument maybe why not doing that. So that would be determined by the districts as well as potentially the county committee weighing in on that. Now, bonded indebtedness, there are several EDCO requirements on that. First of all, both the districts are well under debt limits on their bonded indebtedness. Spreckles has about $6.5 million outstanding and Washington $8.8 million in general obligation bonds. There is $123 million in assessed valuation, about 5% of the entire territory of Spreckles, and that would shift, of course, because you're redrawing the line, and the county auditor and assessor and tax collector would reapportion, if you will, that area to be part of Washington. It's 1/4 of 1%, or excuse me, 1/4 of 1%, basically, or a little less. And just kind of doing a quick calculation, it's about $3 per 100,000 in assessed valuation that we're talking about. So it's not a large amount. Bonding capacity is a calculation, a function of the assessed valuation. And at Spreckles, they currently have about $30 million in bonding capacity. So if they wanted to go out, the voters approved it, they could raise $30 million, in which they could spend on improvements on their facilities. Shifting $123 million to Washington would be a $1.5 million difference, but in my opinion, still adequate for future bond measures and needs. So the conclusion is an equitable division of assets and debt could be achieved, and this criteria is met. The fourth is that the territory would need to preserve the district's ability to educate pupils in an integrated environment and not promote racial or ethnic discrimination or segregation. So the territory would transfer permanently 4% or less of the enrollment, and it would not materially alter the current demographic composition. So I estimated it would be about a 1 to 2% shift in the percentages between the districts. So currently, Spreckles is 47% Hispanic, 40% white, 13 all others, which include mixed races. Washington is 53% white, 29% Hispanic, 11% 2 or more. So there would be about a 1 to 2% shift that would happen, but again, it would not be material enough to create segregation or prevent integrated environment in either district. So this criteria is deemed met. The fifth criteria is any additional cost to the state could nullify, if you will, this petition, but there would be no changes in state revenue eligibility, and this criteria is deemed met. The sixth criteria is the new districts would need to continue to promote sound educational performance and not significantly disrupt the programs of the affected districts. So I looked at testing data and the current educational programs, and I met with each of the district's representative educators. They both have very good programs, and I just kind of listed some of their offerings, which are very similar district to district. Both the districts exceeded the statewide average on English language arts assessments. Washington exceeded in math, and Spreckles was just shy of the statewide average at 4% below. But the conclusion is that the educational programs will continue to be sound, and this criteria is met. The seventh is that there cannot be any increase in school facilities costs that's significant. Well, there'd be no increase at all because no property is being transferred. It's not creating an additional school housing need in Washington Union, so therefore this is met. The eighth criteria is that there has to be other reasons that the petition's been designed other than to increase property values. And as I mentioned earlier on, there's several reasons put forth by the petitioners as to why they want to make this transfer, so therefore this criteria is met. And then the last is fiscal management. The proposed reorganization will continue to promote sound fiscal management and not cause a substantial negative effect on the fiscal status of the proposed districts or any of the existing. So to look at this, I looked at many different factors. First of all, where are they today in terms of their financial stability? Both of these districts are financially stable. They have good reserves. Their reserves significantly exceed the state's minimum recommended 5%. In any territory transfer, there is going to be a transfer of students and the associated ADA funding that goes with it. Of course, also at the same time, they no longer have the cost of providing education to those students. So looking closer at Spreckles, first of all, in terms of financial stability, they had 45, in 23-24, they had 45% in their fund balance of their total expenditures, so that was what their reserve was. And Washington had 29%. So I updated that, I looked at the most recent unaudited actuals for Spreckles, and it actually increased to 60%, so they're in good financial condition. I know that they have questions about future enrollment and interdistrict attendance and how those policies might affect them, and I did take a look at that, and I'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay, in fact, here's the slides. So both of these districts rely heavily on interdistrict transfers to keep their enrollment up. A net 190 transfer students into Spreckles, which I think is around 22% of their students, and 329 transferred into Washington, maybe 40% of their students. At the same time, Spreckles did allow 59 transfers going out to Washington, 9 of which are in the transfer area. So they have 50 more that they have allowed out in this current year to Washington over those that are in the transfer area. So in theory, by adjusting their interdistrict policy, losing 30 students to Washington could be more than made up by not continuing to permit other interdistricts out. So that's one consideration. If they did cut back on Washington, if they cut back on their interdistrict transfers, there is some discussion going on about becoming community funded at some point. It's hard to say, and it's not really relevant to this petition, but there could be some pupils that could be gained by districts such as Spreckles. So overall, whether what the interplay is of these interdistrict transfer policies and approvals, frankly, have by a greater significance than losing the 30 pupils that reside in this territory. Salinas has recently adopted or updated their policy on interdistrict transfers out, but they still do allow it. So, much of that just kind of remains to be seen. Okay. So I looked at the local control funding formula, which is the most significant revenue source of the school district. Both have low unduplicated pupil counts, so there'd be no significant revenue changes there. Now, Washington has more tax revenues, so they could become a community-funded district at some point in the future. So for them to continue to serve inter-district students in this transfer area, having the shift of the tax revenues go to them would help to offset, the added cost of serving those students if they were community funded. And in the meantime, of course, ADA funding follows the students to wherever district they're in attendance at. Okay. So kind of diving in deeper on what is the fiscal impact on Spreckles. Whenever there's a territory transfer, again, there's going to be a shift of revenues from one to the next. But there's also a decrease in the cost to educate. And the state recently, within the last couple of years, I believe, changed their formula to help districts with declining enrollment to soften that fiscal impact. So they have a 3-year average that they do. So even if this were approved, first of all, they would be able to look ahead probably at least a year and adjust their budgets for the loss of the ADA. But in addition to that, these students would be in their base, this 3-year rolling average for the next 3 years until finally it runs out. So there is an opportunity to adjust your budgets with the understanding that you're not going to be serving these students over time. And of course, also adjust for perhaps your inter-district transfer policies in order to make it more manageable. So given all that, I do not believe that it's material to the budget of this district and that they will be able to manage that. And therefore, my conclusion is that this criteria is met. Just to summarize, these districts are in financially stable positions. They have excellent reserves. They receive the same funding per pupil before and after. The revenue loss is minor. It's less than 2% annually, a total of 5%. At the same time, they won't have the expenditures as well for these students. So, Monterey is revenue neutral. And that this transfer is also equitable to Washington because they would be receiving a tax base and the ADA to serve the pupils, which is important for them becoming community funded. All right, so overall, I may be repeating myself a little bit here, but both districts are financially stable. I think there'd be minimal impacts on employees' education or facilities. There'd be an immaterial effect on Spreckles' finances. This petition would consolidate the community identity. There was broad support at the public hearings, which might come up later in your conversations. And I could see that there are better transportation options with this petition for the parents that live there with the Toro Park School nearby and with the better bus ride times that Washington has for their students. And then, of course, any inter-district transfer parent is not, able to participate in the local governance of the school. So that would to facilitate and formalize that relationship with the district. With that, open for questions now or later as you prefer.
Does anyone have questions? We are going to be going over each of the criteria individually, and that might be a better time to ask questions specifically about that, and so we can have you come back up at that time. That's
Okay,
it.
very good.
Now moving on to item 4.4, Marguerite, again, but this time on the steps in this particular process between Spreckles and Washington Union.
And thank you very much, Chair Staff. So what do we do today? This is a procedural presentation. So this is just an overview of the options, and we will go through them one by one. So as a consultant, as Christy Weiss let you know, the criteria must be substantially met for the petition to be approved. So if any of the 9 criteria are found not to be met, you don't have the discretion to approve it. No. It's different at the state board level, but finding any one of the 9 criteria not to be met results in denial. However, the same is not true if they are all met. That you do have discretion to deny a petition that meets the 9 criteria. And that's been established in California case law by the courts. And it's also been recognized by the State Board of Education. I put the case name up there. It's a little bit of an older case, but the provisions that are discussed in that case are carried over into current law. And then there's one other criterion that you have to make a decision on, and that would be whether the territory transfer would adversely affect the school district organization of the county. Would it undermine in any way how the school districts are set up? So these are your options today. I do want to talk about though your ability to approve this petition today. It has been determined by California case law, actually Supreme Court, that the reorganization of the school district is a project under CEQA. And the steps of CEQA are set up here. CEQA compliance is not required if you're going to deny this petition. But if you are going to approve it, and there is the sense of the county committee that you wish to consider approval, then the law requires that you consider the impacts on the environment in making that decision. So the final decision on approval would need to be postponed until after you receive the CEQA review. That's currently underway. It's currently underway. We tried to push to get it for today. We were unable to do that. So we maybe have to return if it is the sense of the committee to proceed with an approval. So your next steps at this meeting then are to well, first of all, you're going to hear from the petitioners, and you're going to hear from the affected school districts. Then you're going to hear from the public. Okay. And then the next steps after those are to determine whether each criteria is met, and you'll review them one by one. Deny the petition if a criterion is not substantially met. When you deny the petition, remember you have this ability, even if all criteria are met. Now, you just can't do that because you're in a bad mood today. You've got to exercise that discretion based on reasonable arguments, facts that are brought to this committee, perhaps by a school district, perhaps by a member of the public. And if you do choose to take that route, I would advise you and urge you to articulate that on the record so the public knows why you have made that decision. It's also critical in the case of judicial oversight or judicial review. In the Hamilton case, all of the criteria were met. And yet that county committee, which was Contra Costa County, denied that reorganization because it was inconsistent with what they were trying to do in the county. But they articulated that on the record. So then when the court reviewed it, the court is not going to second guess you. It's only gonna second guess you if you're arbitrary. But if you set forth your reasons, those reasons are reasonable, a court is gonna defer to you. So this is a situation where I would urge you to talk about what you see, what you believe, and reasons for your decision. If you are inclined to approve this petition, we're gonna have to delay for CEQA to be completed. We'll have to schedule a meeting generally to approve a negative declaration. When CEQA is required, your timing gets extended. So instead of the January 7th deadline, you have 120 days from completion of CEQA. But remember, it's not always required. You can deny without CEQA compliance. And then if you approve this petition, not gonna be today, but in the next little while, if it's your decision to approve the petition, you have to determine the area of election. But what's interesting is the code has gone a long way in doing that for you, because this has got a special circumstances election provision that is actually set forth in code. And if the transfer is approved by the governing board of the district with an ADA of 900 or less, and you've just heard from Ms. White, that both of these districts are in that area, the code says the election area shall include the entire territory of the districts opposing the transfer. So we don't have at least to my knowledge, we don't have a resolution yet opposing. But should that occur, the area of election is automatically expanded. And not only is the area expanded, but there's a concurrent majority requirement. So at that point, the transfer, the petition would need to be approved not only in the entire area of the election, but also in the opposing school district as well. So it's concurrent majorities. That is a code section that has been used, it's in code, and it can be waived if that's the sense of what the county committee wishes to do. You'd have to put on your different hat, or one of the school districts would need to seek that waiver, since the county committee can't do it. Only the county board can, or one of the school districts. So, how does this all work with going up to the state board? We started off tonight's proceedings talking about proceedings at the State Board of Education. Well, the rules are different with territory transfers. If you deny this petition, it cannot be appealed to the State Board of Education. Chief petitioners could request reconsideration. Generally, that's based on new facts or law. Approval of the petition, however, can be appealed. And that appeal would happen before it goes to election. Oops, I kind of doing so well here. There we go. Any questions on procedures?
Can you go back 3 slides?
Sure. Another one?
There, okay. Electionary area shall include the entire territory of the districts, not that one. Of the districts, shall, not may, shall.
It's a shall.
Okay.
And I have brought this up and I should have, there is a specific provision of the Ed Code that says shall is mandatory.
Okay, so if we were to approve this petition, and if Spreckles did not waive the election, the election has to be shall. The territory, the transfer territory, and the entire Spreckles district at Spreckles cost.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, the cost of this ability or this privilege for small districts is that they pay for the expanded area of election. Generally, with a territory transfer, the default is only the election area votes. You would have the discretion to expand it, but you wouldn't have to. The default is a transfer area. With small districts and an opposition by one of those districts, there is a mandatory expansion to the entire district, but that's at the cost of the district.
Going back to that slide, sorry. I got a little lost on who can waive that election.
Okay, thank you. Waivers can be requested by boards. And it's interesting, you're all the same people, but you have to put your other hat on to request a waiver. Waiver is not something that happens here. You would request the waiver from the State Board of Education. And there would be a way and a balancing at the state board. There are consultations that are required at the local level. But the waiver can only be requested by you, sitting as the board, or by one of the boards of one of the school districts. They also have that ability.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, and as Marguerite, our attorney, just laid out, the process of the decision this evening is going to be that petitioners have a chance to present comments. Washington Union has another 10 minutes, the petitioners have 10 minutes, the Washington Union has 10 minutes, Freckles then has 10 minutes as well. And then we would continue on, so that's kind of on the overall petition and what's being considered here. And then we'll continue on with examining each of the criteria that is being considered under the laws, the 9 criteria. And we will be taking action on each of those items individually. So we will be doing all of this, and there will be a chance for us to take public comment on each of those items as well before we take action, before we deliberate and then take action on each one. So we're gonna take action on each of the 9, and then we're gonna take action on the overall petition. That's the procedure that we're gonna follow this evening. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. All right, so starting off with the petitioners.
As they make their way to the podium, Denise here will be timing each presentation, so when you hear the beep, please finish the sentence that you're on, and then we'll transition to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. We promise to keep it short, unlike the last 2 meetings. First, we'd like to thank Ms. Christy White for her clear and thorough analysis. We also want to thank all of you, the Monterey County Office of Education Board and staff for the time, care, and attention you have dedicated to this petition throughout this entire process. Your work matters deeply to the families here tonight, for those that could not be here who have been here at the previous 2 meetings. The feasibility study confirmed what our families have lived for years. This transfer is practical, it's responsible, and it's supportive of students, families, and both districts. Seeing the data laid out plainly validates what we've long known. This is about alignment. Alignment with community identity, daily routines, and common sense.
From the beginning, our goal has been simple, just aligning district boundaries with how our community actually functions. Toro Sunshine, Sarah Village, and the Highway 68 neighborhoods are naturally part of Toro Park and Toro Hills community. We shop together, play together, start our days in the same directions towards Toro and San Bernardino. Families are ready to participate in Washington Union classrooms, teams, and events. This isn't new, it's recognition of what already exists.
The study confirms this alignment is not only logical, it's responsible. Several families already make the choice to attend Washington Union because it fits where they live, work, and spend their time. And many more would like the opportunity, but face barriers because of outdated boundaries. This affects today's students, the young family and the young families building their families here. Financially, both districts will remain stable, but transportation finally makes sense. Children who live minutes from Toro Park shouldn't be spending unnecessary time in transit. These are real lived experiences, not theory.
We've listened to our neighbors and the stories are consistent. Families describe early mornings, rushed bus schedules, and long days spent far from their community. Meanwhile, the school they identify with is minutes away. This transfer eases stress, improves safety, and brings children closer to home. It's centered on kids, and that's what matters.
I want to speak to intention. We're not here to criticize either school district. We know both care deeply about their students and their district as a whole. But boundaries drawn decades ago don't always match the community of today. When something no longer fits, it's okay to update it so it better serves our kids. This is one of those moments. And to our community, thank you. Parents, grandparents, neighbors, young families, Washington Union staff, and our entire community, thank you for standing up and for those who shared your stories. You helped show what this study confirmed. This community already lives and learns as part of Washington Union School District. Your voices mattered, your participation mattered, and you showed the heart of this petition.
Every statutory criterion was met. The numbers confirm stability, the community connections are established and clear. But this effort is more than statistics. It reflects a growing, engaged community, families raising children and planning futures here, deeply invested in and belonging to Washington Union. They're not asking for something new, but for something true to who they are.
Thank you for listening and for considering both the data, facts, and the people behind it. On behalf of the families of Toro Sunshine, Sarah Village, and the entire Toro Park corridor, we respectfully ask for your support. This is about more than lines on a map. It's about children learning close to home, families feeling connected, and a community being recognized for what it already is. Approving this transfer gives our children stability, connection, and a true sense of belonging. These are the things that shape childhood, families, and strong communities. Thank you all for your time and for your care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Washington Union School District.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of you for your thoughtful work and your dedication to this process. I also want to express my appreciation to Christy for the thorough feasibility study that she prepared for everyone. Your task is unquestionably challenging. The residents involved find themselves in a difficult position. They seek to remain part of the community at large, while they're also geographically separated from the Spreckles district, but they want to maintain meaningful social and community ties within the Washington Union District. These complexities have made your role all the more significant to this process. As you move forward with your deliberations, I really just wish you the best as you consider all the evidence and the facts. I'm confident that you'll make the most informed decision possible based on the comprehensive information presented throughout the process. You've listened to hours of public comment, and we're all aware that you are keenly aware of the emotions and passions within each of the communities that you serve. Ultimately, your ability to carefully weigh the evidence while setting aside emotion will be your greatest challenge and your greatest strength as you work toward a fair and thoughtful outcome. Thank you again for your commitment to the process and for your thoughtful consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Spreckles Union.
Good evening, committee. Thank you again. As Gina said, you have a difficult task ahead of you. And thank you for your time. Tonight we are trusting that common sense will prevail and you'll put an end to this, what is becoming a very divisive process that's pitting the two least funded districts in the entire county against each other. So far, we've heard from petitioners and community members on both sides of the transfer issue, but we haven't heard from either board. Our board met earlier today and unanimously approved a resolution that Bernard's going to pass out. Oh, you got it ready? Adam, you will help. Okay. So, again, this happened tonight. Our board felt it important to speak as one voice. The resolution opposes the petition and the transfer of territory. We are committing to exercising our right under the Ed Code that Mrs. Leone mentioned to hold the election. We're not in a position to absorb that type of cost, but we are committed to our students' programs, and we will see it through. And I do want to thank Mrs. White for her comprehensive report and for meeting with us. But we do disagree with many of the conclusions. Specifically, we do not think all of the criteria have been met, specifically two, which I'll share. I think it's important to understand why we're here and the timing of this. This was initiated by two citizens during the economic uncertainty. It's not from the school board, it's not by the majority. These are two very good intentioned citizens. Their kids have been in the program for Washington for 3, 4, 5 years. They are part of that culture. And we're not threatening that status quo. Whoa. We talked about the majority versus the minority. We have basically one true statistical sample, and that is the 30 kids that live there. 2/3 are choosing to go to Spreckles, 1/3 to Washington. The majority is the other 20 that we haven't heard from, and that was one of our biggest issues with the study. Their voices are silent. They've come to meetings, they made statements, they've sent in letters. I think they'll speak tonight. But they have not, they're not captioning this as the petitioners are. In the study, it uses this term equitable representation. And I think, and Mrs. White can correct me since it's her study, I think the argument goes like this 10 students, their families have been part of the Washington culture. They are on the PTO, they are active in daily events, but they can't vote. Again, they're disenfranchised. They bought houses in Spreckles knowing that, but again, they're part of Washington, they want to have a say. By that argument, 20 people are going to be disenfranchised. You're going to flip the ratio 2 to 1. By passing this petition, those 20 that are choosing Spreckles have now lost their voting right within Spreckles. It doesn't seem consistent. And the elephant in the room that we've talked about is why this is happening now. I mentioned they've had, the petitioners have kids in the district for 4 to 5 years. Some families that live in that area that are graduating this year, they've been for 9 years. This has not been an issue. This has never been brought up. Why now? It's because of the basic aid conversation. Their status quo is threatened if Washington goes to basic aid, which I believe is a when and how, not an if anymore. And it needs to be part of this conversation. It can't be excluded. This process, one of the rationales for the petition is a sense of unifying neighborhoods. It's doing the exact opposite, as you can see from the makeup of this room, comments that you've received, comments that were made by at other meetings. It's a very divisive community process that will only get worse if this is passed. Basically what it's doing is getting too small, inadequate, and inadequate is the term from the study, which kind of confused me, but I think the definition is, under 900 students, you are inadequate, meaning for funding and for number of students. So the question is, how can you make a decision, basically, that's going against the regulation? It says that inadequate districts shouldn't even be put in this situation. This is going to widen the divide between the have and have-not school districts. I know and I applaud you for your public commitment to equity. As you'll see in this presentation, this is not between two small districts anymore. They go basic aid. We're talking about the lowest district paid, us, versus what will now be the third highest paid. The kids will not have equitable programs. And I'll explain exactly what we consider material difference in our 80 will cause. And bottom line, criteria number 9 is not met. This negatively impacts our fiscal status and our ability to provide programs for our kids. So we do not agree that criteria 9 has been met. The statute reads that not cause a substantial negative effect on fiscal status. I guess the term substantially material is something that we disagree on. For us, a loss of the $200,000 plus the property taxes is really the difference between having a counseling program and not, which I'll explain in a second, or an intervention program. We're not talking about finding, after-school art classes to eliminate. Fortunately, our parent group picks that up. We're down to core programs as a district. So ultimately, we consider this quite material. This will negatively impact us. We are already in the process of making really tough decisions. And this only compounds those decisions. And those decisions are paying competitive salaries, maintaining programs, and having a thriving community. If number 9 is not met, we also think number 6 is not met. Any loss of our ADA property taxes directly impacts our ability to provide educational programs for students. Sorry, I'm moving quickly. I'm obviously not very good at it.
Towards the next slide, I'll go for
Okay. So what is point introduction? That's the term. That's the number that Kristen gives that we think is very material. What does this mean in real terms for Spreckles? The loss of $234,000 a year annual loss basically translates to us to our full social emotional support system. We had 1 counselor per site. We did not have counselors pre-COVID. We could lose an intervention specialist, the one who's in charge of creating programs for students that are at risk or falling behind. Bridging program or after-school tutoring program was mentioned in the feasibility study. These are the last programs that we added with one-time money. As you already know, high enrollment and loss of one-time money are causing some serious economic problems for districts, and we're one of them. These are 3 programs that Mrs. White listed in her study as being sound educational programs. These are the ones we're losing. So I guess I ask you, is it a material loss to lose your social emotional support system for kids during an adolescent, crisis in mental health? I think it is very material. And this is where it becomes the have and have-nots. This graph is actually provided by you. It's your annual report from 23-24. The numbers have changed a little bit, not much. And this is not a graph that you want to be at the top of. It's just the opposite. It goes from least funded all the way down to the most funded. Currently, we're number 2. And Washington is number 1. So we've commiserated over a lack of funding for many years, trying to be creative in our solutions. The difference is, in a month from now, they have an off-ramp, a very attractive one, painful but attractive. This is taken directly from the Washington Union School District. I think it's part of their PR and informing people about perhaps their shift to basic aid. This is their current funding. I think 804. Oh. Basic aid funding is going to go up to $19,000. That's a 62. I hope I get some grace on this, please. A couple minutes for that. That's a 62% increase in funding by transition to basic aid. That's why it's not a if, it's a when and how they're going to do it. So basically, they're gonna jump from last to third. Well, it depends how, Big Sur has 18 students, so I guess they'd be fourth. After Carmel and PG, those are the basic aids. This is definitely a have and have not. Taking anything from Spreckles at this point is really kicking the person who's down. We cannot afford any type of loss, especially not something that's significant enough to lose programs that were just mentioned. Right. All right. So I'm trying to buy myself some more time, I'm messing up.
Want me to advance it for you? Yeah, he'll advance it for you.
All right. So, one of the suggestions is what we spread the pain over 3 years. This is straight from our unaudited actuals that we provide to the MCOE. We're in the red already. We're almost $1 million this year, going to a little less the next year, then jumping up in 27, 28. This is not due to fiscal mismanagement. If you look at our reserve, as Mrs. White mentioned, it's significant, it's healthy, it's purposeful for rainy days. You notice what happens between over 3 years, we're going down 12% in our available reserves currently. If you add the 200 plus to this, you just added 20% to our net decrease. 20% harder to do what the county is asking us to do. And I know you guys have many jobs. Your day job is the Board of Education, or maybe not your day job, your third job, right? And this is
Superintendent Torello, how many more slides do you have?
like, this is the last one, and
Okay.
then closing arguments.
No.
Okay.
No.
I really don't have a hard time
Yep.
with this. This came directly from your staff. This is the feedback we get for the actuals. You pretty much put us on notice, for rightfully so. And it says basically districts like ours shouldn't expect to grow out of this. Our enrollment's not gonna miraculously pick up. So basically it says it's critically important for us to start making spending decisions, how to get out of it. We're having those conversations that are painful. The programs that I mentioned, those are the ones we're talking about. We're talking about losing staffing. So this is, any loss is gonna make a bad situation even worse. It's very material to us. Washington, on the other hand, has an off-ramp that their kids are gonna see, ideally, with that 62%, more aides in the class, more art, more counselors. We're just the opposite. Thank you for your time. I'm gonna invite my board president up in a second. Basically today, I think we have two pathways. The first is to deny this petition and the divisive process. And if it comes down to the petitioners, there's ways to grandfather them in without having to disrupt another district. Two, you approve the petition and this division only gets worse. We have a ballot measure in 2026, we have yard signs, we have conversations at the soccer field that used to be about kids playing, now about what side of the petition you're on. And who's next? Honestly, if you're saying that a small group of people that identify more with another district or their districts, that are part of their parent groups, that they have the right to have a petition that could impact 900 kids. Who's next? We both have kids that are in East Garrison. Many of them come to our schools for inter-districts. They're part of our parent groups. What happens if they decide, you know what, MPOSD, we're closer to Spreckles, or this conversation and this scenario can repeat over and over. How about if members of Pasadena decide that, we're more in Monterey, that they're faced with losing that property. This process is dangerous and the precedent is scary. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our board president for final comments. Dr. Hasagawa has been in education for 40 years and from Packers' perspective.
Thank you for all on the public comments.
Thank you. Sorry, we're just trying to keep the process fair. We're not trying to be rude or cut anyone off. It's just,
It's gonna be a long night as it is.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna move on to the individual items, but before we do that, we just wanted to make note of the public comments that we've received in writing.
Okay, so this stack here represents all the public comments that we received from the last public hearing to now. And in consultation with our legal counsel, we are not going to read 2 minutes of each of these into the record, but we do want you to know that all of the board members have received copies of all of these public comments. And what we can state is that from
And they are part of the record.
they will all be entered into the record. I'm handing them right now to the secretary, who will enter them into the record. And just so that it's clear where we're at thus far, at the first public hearing, we did receive 18 people who opposed and 44 people who supported. At the next hearing, we had 20 people who opposed and 6 people that supported. Sorry, I got that backwards. The first meeting was 20 opposed, 6 supported. The second meeting was 18 opposed, 44 supported. And then from that staff that came in, 38 opposed and 50 supported. And we now have public comment in person that we will hear from as well. You ready? Okay. Okay, so we're going to ask the speakers to please line up, 3 people at a time. You will each be given 2 minutes, and the public comment is going to go in the order in which these were received.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
It's a question, clarifying question. Are the comments on just criteria 1, or are they comments for all criteria?
They say 5 and 5.1, so my understanding is for all of them. It's not for criteria 1, 2, 3, it's for the whole item, is the way I'm understanding their public comment.
Okay.
But until we hear what they say,
Okay.
it's just difficult to ascertain. Okay, and I want to apologize in advance if I accidentally mispronounce anyone's name. Please forgive me, I'm going to do the best I can. Thank you. Okay, so the first speaker will be, or let me have the first 3 people line up. That's Maria Zarate, Heather Brodell, Gail Carney, and then on deck, the 3 that will come next will be Loretta Toledo, Kimberly Hines, and Katie Hook. So we'll start with Maria Zarate, and each speaker will have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Zarate and I'm a mother in the Sparkle School District for more than 10 years. I wanted to share my concern about the possible territory transfer change to boundaries. It will mean fewer resources and more cost for schools. As a mom, I worry that our children, especially those who already struggle with those programs and support that are important for their learning and growth. Many families like mine work very hard and don't have many options, and it hurts to see opportunities of our kids being reduced. Please think about how this decision will affect the most vulnerable children and families. Our kids deserve opportunities, no more barriers. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Heather Brodell.
Good evening. My name is Heather Brodell. I'm the Transportation Coordinator for Sparkles Union School District. I am also a SUS community member and have been for over 25 years. First, I'd like to address the Transportation Information Report and give a little bit of my own information. Right now at Sparkles Union School District, we have 2 bus drivers, myself and 1 other. Last year we had 3. There is a national shortage and many local districts are suffering from the same issue. This is the main reason bus ride times in this area in the morning are much longer than what they have been in the past. The way that it has worked out is that so we can continue to get all students to school and as many as we can home in the afternoon. Last year we had to consolidate the routing in that area due to only having one-way access. The road by the Creekside condos has been back open to 2-way traffic since the beginning of the school year, so it's no longer closed down. What is affected is closer to Toro Park School. With the addition of another driver, I would anticipate at least a 10-minute difference in timing, possibly more. And it just depends on how things need to be restructured when we do obtain another school bus driver. Despite the longer rides on the bus, most parents are just grateful that we can continue to provide transportation services. I have attended both meetings and have found that many of the people speaking in favor of the transfer of Toro Sunshine and Sarah Village to Washington Union School District as saying one of the reasons for wanting it is so they can feel a sense of community with the students and family they attend school with in Washington Union School District. I personally purchased my house knowing what school district I'd be sending my kids to. Most people do that. Can residents not allow themselves to feel a sense of community where they live just because their kids go to a different school? Both my kids played intramural sports and we met a lot of families and have made lifelong friends with many regardless where they lived and went to school. Living in the proposed area and transferring out is your choice, but to say your kids went to Spreckles but lived in Toro Sunshine or Sarah Village, they couldn't form bonds doesn't seem like a feasible reason. It is what you make of it. Kids are resilient. This seems more like a parent issue, not necessarily the kids. What it appears to me, as well as many others I've talked to, is that when the residents in the proposed area found out that Washington Union was planning to go basic aid and would not be accepting students in, perhaps parents or residents panicked and came up with a plan for the territory transfer. Many have asked why the Creekside condos were not included because they are in close proximity. I don't ever recall an answer or hearing a direct answer. If I remember correctly, at one of the meetings, someone commented that they weren't asking for all of that area, that they were leaving or giving the Creekside condos to Spreckles Union School District. I am interested in why they were not included. It has to be something other than generosity. In times of economic uncertainty, and many school districts, especially the smaller ones, feel the pain of funding cuts, transferring this property from its current district of Spreckles Union School District into one that will be getting their funding through community-based aid doesn't make sense, as it would have a negative fiscal impact on one, Spreckles Union School District. It should be primarily looked at how it impacts Spreckles Union School District. Real quick, financial impact should not outweigh feeding, feeling a sense of community, looking at need versus want. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Gail Harney, and please line up again, Loretta Toledo, Kimberly Hines, and Katie Husband. Gail.
Good evening, members of the County Office of Education Committee. I'd like to express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning that would move my neighborhood from Spreckles Union School District to the Washington Union School District. We purchased our brand new home in Toro Sunshine 34 years ago, and we're fully aware and pleased that we were in the Spreckles School District. As a past student, educator, parent, and grandparent of children who attended and currently attend the Spreckles Union School District, I have deep roots in the Spreckles community. Historically, 2/3 of school-aged children in Toro Sunshine have attended Spreckles School, and 1/3 transferring to Washington Union. While my 3 children were school-age, 39 neighbor students in Toro Sunshine attended Spreckles, while 12 attended Washington Union. So those figures align with today's attendance in the area covering the position with 21 versus 9. Proof that interdistrict transfers are not trending for the area in question, rather about the same as it has been for the last 34 years, with 30% transfers while 70% attend Spreckles. I worked in the Spreckles district for 19 years and witnessed the incredible sense of connection, pride, and commitment shared by families, staff, and students. My family has always felt fully part of the Spreckles community, which makes this proposal especially difficult to accept. The argument that rezoning would better align communities does not reflect the reality of our long-standing relationships with a genuine sense of belonging that already exists here. My grandchildren currently attend Spreckles and are receiving a wonderful education in a California distinguished school that consistently provides a supportive, high-quality learning environment. Moving our neighborhood into another district would disrupt this continuity and diminish the educational experience that families like mine have valued for generations. Whether you live in Toro Sunshine, Sarah Village, Las Palmas, Indian Springs, Vista del Rio, Padrati Subdivision, the town of Spreckles, on a farm, or an inter-district transfer, the Spreckles school community is strong, successful, and welcoming.
Thank you.
I respectfully urge the board, the committee to reject the rezoning petition and not fracture our close-knit community of 850 students for the wishes of the parents of 9 students.
Thank you. And our next speaker, and again, I do apologize if I'm cutting you off. It's not because I'm trying to be rude. We just have a lot of speakers here. Our next speaker is Loretta Toledo.
Good evening, my name is Laura Toledo. I am the Sparkles parent and the current Sparkles Youth Educational Foundation president. For brevity, I will just say I agree with anyone that has opposed the petition based on criteria 2, 9, or 6 as a result of 9. Furthermore, I just want to comment further on the financial part that to identify either district as financially stable doesn't quite feel true. I don't think Washington would be making a basic aid decision if they felt they were financially stable. I don't think we would be feeling that a loss of 2-point-something% feels crippling right now if we felt we were being financially stable. Furthermore, to expand on what Dr. Torello said, the precedent that could be set here is a little scary. If Washington goes basic aid, the number of inter-district students coming out of either Salinas City Elementary or East Garrison is actually much higher than the 9 affected here. What prevents this from continuing to be a thing where petitions are filed by either of those groups for very similar reasons. And so I'll say exactly what I did the first hearing. On a personal level, I feel for these parents. I am these parents, I'm an inter-district transfer. I'm these parents serving on these boards. But it is very hard to feel like a decision is made for 9 that cannot be made for so many more. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kimberly Hines.
All right, I won't bore you guys by rereading my whole letter. There just were a couple things that I wanted to take a look at from the report that was submitted. One of the things was community identity based on the shopping center there. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with it, but it's a 7-Eleven and a tanning booth. I don't think that we should be identifying either community by what's there. It's basically like just a little stop on the road. The roadblock in the morning, that was a big part of the traffic impact. That's been gone since August, shortly after school started. So I did the mileage from Miss Lawton's house. It's about 4.4 miles to either Spreckles School or to Buena Vista. From Mr. Estasi's house, it's 3.5 miles. Toro Park Elementary would be closer for both of them. Washington Union would be 6 miles and 6.7 miles. San Venancio, 2.9, 3.6. So on average, for the points or the spots that are furthest east towards Salinas through there, that would be an average of 4.6 miles. When anywhere to one of the Spreckles Union School Districts, it's 3.5. There was a thing about it taking 80 minutes to get to one of the Spreckles Union School Districts. That is virtually impossible. 80 minutes for 3.5 miles is impossible. It would take me 80 minutes to get to Lake Goss and Meadow, okay? I don't understand where that came from. The roadblock's been gone. I feel like that should be such a moot point, and that is one of the criteria that has to be met for this to be approved. The other thing that I wanted to take a look at was just the property tax revenue. For Spreckles, we have 2,113 parcels. We draw 3,381,000 and some change from that. Washington Union gets 6 million, and so they're gonna gain 472. We are gonna lose $316,000 a year if this is passed. And I beg of you, please, please, please.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Katie Hook, and I'm going to ask the next 3 speakers to please line up. Ryan O'Connell, Eric Phelps, and Bill Light.
Hi, I'm Katie Hook. I'm seeking to gain strong opposition of the proposed territory transfer. I am a Sarah Village resident and I am a mother of 2 children who attend Spreckles Elementary. This proposal does not reflect the needs or experiences of the majority of families who actually live in the impacted area. For transportation, while Toro Elementary is physically closer to our neighborhood, proximity does not equate to ease of access. Toro Elementary only has one entrance and one exit for drop-off and one exit, routinely creating long lines and delays. Spreckles Elementary, though, slightly further, has 5 drop-off points accessible from multiple directions, making it significantly faster and more efficient for families traveling from the district in question. Claims that travel to Spreckles Union District is impractical is also inaccurate. It was very troubling that travel time home after drop-off was weighted so heavily in Christy White's report, while common alternative morning routines were not considered. Many parents do not return home after drop-off. They continue on to workplaces in Salinas or Monterey. For these families, Spreckles District offers a direct commute using Reservation Road or Highway 68 with no additional mileage or time. By contrast, families dropping off at Washington Union schools must backtrack significantly. At Toro Elementary, specifically, parents are blocked from using Torero Drive during peak hours, forcing all traffic into heavy congestion at Pacola Drive. For community identity, Sierra Village has a strong and distinct community identity that is not tied to Washington Union School District. In 8 years that I've lived there, my family's never once received direct outreach or invitations to Washington Union community units. Simply living near Washington Union does not mean we share the same community identity. Arguments also that children in the territory need to be in Washington Union to be near friends also overlook reality. Many Washington Union families live miles apart in San Venancio, Crowley, Laura, Dallas Braid, and beyond. Travel to see friends is a common in both districts. For these reasons, I respectfully and firmly urge you to vote no on the territory transfer, or at least a deference until a decision about Washington Union going basic aid can be decided. A vote yes would disrupt the majority of families in the affected area to serve the preferences of only a small minority. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ryan O'Connell.
Good evening, my name is Ryan O'Connell. I have 2 boys who go to Spreckles District. I live in the territory in question and I oppose the transfer. My first objection to the report of Ms. White is the appearance of bias. On page 4 of the report, Ms. White notes that she met with the petitioners. Ms. White's report thereafter adopts the petitioner's argument without any input of the opposing residents of the territory. The failure to consider the opposing views is evident throughout the study. Had Ms. White met with any of the residents who have opposed the views, she would have been presented with a significantly different views on community connections, on traffic, and on overall impact on the territory's children. The mere fact that the petitioners filed the petition should not give them access to Ms. White's ear. I also want to draw your attention to the criteria of number 9 of the Education Code section that we're talking about. That criteria states the proposed reorganization will continue to promote sound physical management and not cause a substantial negative effect on the physical status of the affected district. It requires 2 things, not just one. And the operative term here is in this subsection is to continue to promote. It is well established in California case law that statutes are interpreted using their plain meaning. This is commonly referred to as the plain meaning rule. Here, the statute is unambiguous. The plain meaning of promote is to further the progress of, advance, or rise to a higher position. Ms. White fails to address how the territory transfer will further the progress and advance the rise of SUSD's physical soundness. Ms. White's analysis is superficial and never digs into how the losses will impact SUSD. Ms. White's report fails to consider how the losses of approximately $2 million in bonding capacity, loss of 2% LCFF, loss of 5% LCFF over 3 years, and loss of $445,000 of property taxes will impact the students and programs of SUSD. The level of analysis is missing in the 67 pages of report. She simply wants the reader to accept that the figures are, in her mind, small and therefore inconsequential. But whether they are small and inconsequential to SUSD should be the question. Ms. White provides no analysis in the 67-page report as to how the loss of this money will impact teacher salaries, attract qualified teachers, teacher retention, classroom materials, after-school programs. Her conclusion of what is substantial is not based at all on how the losses will impact SUSD. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask that the audience not applaud or make comments after people give their comments, because we'd like to maintain respect for everyone in the room, and there are a lot of feelings in this room, and I think we don't need to add to that by applauding or cheering. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Eric Phelps.
Good evening, my name is Eric Phelps. I live at 20248 Blue Drive in the Sparkles Union School District with my wife and my 4 kids. I want to start with a simple example for my own family. My kids love riding their bikes and walking to their friends' houses. But only friends they can easily reach are the ones who live within the Washington Union school boundaries, not Sparkles. That small detail reflects a much bigger issue. Our neighborhood's daily life is centered in the Toro Park, Washington Union communities. This is why I strongly support the petition to realign our neighborhood into the Washington Union School District. I'd like to note that Creekside is a little bit different. They have a community pool, they have community playgrounds, they have a lot of community open grounds for their residents to live in. We can't from outside that area go and play there, so I think that is a little bit different. Families in the Toro area, Sunshine, and Village already belong to the Toro community. There are no parks or playgrounds inside our neighborhoods, so our kids naturally ride their bikes to Toro Park Elementary School or other smaller parks within Toro. Adjusting this boundary simply allows children who live together, play together, and grow up together also get to learn together. The existing Sparkles boundary was drawn decades ago, long before Las Palmas, Indian Springs, Heritage, and a lot of other developments. Those lines no longer match how families live, commute, or attend school today. This adjustment makes the map more logical, compact, consistent with modern community patterns. The state requires that any boundary change meet specific criteria, which this petition, I believe, clearly does. The change supports students' social development, safety, and allows them to align the school with attendance with their actually live and play. The number of affected students is small and simply formalizes existing enrollment patterns as it does not disrupt racial or ethnic balances. Many families already attend Washington through transfer. Fiscal impact to Sparkles is minimal. In summary, this strengthens our community, and in fact, the petition was signed by the majority of all homeowners in the Sarah Village and Toro Sunshine, and that should be noted, not just the kids that go to school there. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Bill Light, followed by, so please line up, Chris Hasagawa and Kay Ho.
Good evening, President, trustees, and Superintendent Gus. My name is Bill Light, and what brings me here tonight is not just policy or procedure, it's personal history, community identity, and a deep sense of responsibility. I grew up at the end of Portola Drive near the dead end and by the old Vincennes stable. I attended Spreckles Elementary from 1973 to 1980. This district shaped me. It shaped countless kids whose families built their lives around the sense of stability and belonging that Spreckles provides. My grandmother, Eloise Wright, who served this community as both a teacher and a trustee on this very board, devoted her life to the belief that schools should strengthen communities, not fracture them. She would be appalled at how divisive and destabilizing this process has become for families who only want their district left whole. The committee's own agenda materials outline the truth we cannot ignore. Spreckles Unified is already carrying heavy burdens, declining enrollment, vanishing COVID relief, surging health and welfare costs. These pressures are not hypothetical. They are structural inequities that weigh on every student and every classroom. And now in the middle of that fragility, this petition proposes to remove both students and assess valuation from Spreckles Unified. That is not harmless. For a district this size, it is a deep cut, one that threatens educational stability, undermines bonding capacity, and widens inequities that already run too deep. Families across this district, some even inside the proposed transfer area, are exhausted by the strain, the uncertainty, the sense that their community is being pulled apart for reasons that offer no shared benefit. So I'm speaking plainly Please keep this transfer of students and property valuation away from Spreckles Unified School District. Let this community heal, let it recover, let it stand together instead of being forced apart. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Hasegawa.
Hi, I'm Chris Hasegawa. I'm the president of the Spreckles School Board. And I just want to say that from our perspective, from the board's perspective, there's no villains in this issue. If I were a parent that lived a couple blocks away from a school, I'd want my kids to be able to ride their bikes. I might put together a petition like this even. I probably wouldn't want to be involved in all the hearings and things that have gone on. But, you know, that makes sense to me. I know that Washington Union is facing a decision about whether or not to go basic aid or community funding. And given that off-ramp, if we have that for our district, we might do that too. You know, that makes sense to me. I understand that Ms. White's report had to be constructed under the constraints of what there is now, because that's what the report gave. That makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is that we're going to make a decision based on a report that's based on a time that won't be the same in a month. And I think it's the county board's responsibility to look at the long term. And in the long term, there's going to be some equity issues, there are going to be some other problems that need to be considered. You can't constrain yourself to the same time period that the Spikes report did. And I also want to say that our board deeply regrets the divide that's come into our community. I mean, Washington Union and Spreckles Union school districts have worked together very cooperatively for years and years. And we hope that those districts can come back together and continue to be good neighbors to each other. But right now, what we think the right decision for this board, looking forward, is to deny this petition.
Thank you. And our last speaker is K.O.
Hi, my name is Kay. I'm here respectfully speaking in strong support of the petition. I just moved to Sarah Village area earlier this year in January, and I'd just like to give some additional perspective to the argument that the only 9 transfer students would be affected by the petition. My children are 2.5 years old and 5 months old. And having just relocated to the area, I don't have any ties to parent groups or school districts for that matter. We literally just moved, so I really don't know too many people, but I would like my children to attend the Washington Union School District. The Toro Park Elementary School is only a 15-minute bike ride from my house, and just the thought of an 80-minute bus ride just seems really unthinkable for me. Additionally, my son has a lot of special needs. He was born with Usher syndrome 1B, and it's a condition where he was born deaf in both ears with balance issues, and he will eventually lose his vision and become totally blind. And as a result, we have a lot of physical therapy, early intervention appointments in the morning. So having access to education that is close to our home is important because it provides him access to a lot of these interventions that will make a meaningful difference in his quality of life as he grows up. My mother-in-law also lives with us. We live in an intergenerational household, and she's the primary caretaker of my children while my husband and I both work. And as my children grow older, she will also be the one taking them to school. And for her, she is older. She's not as comfortable driving in a car for longer distances, and so she relies a lot on public transportation or walking or biking. And so, in that sense, the Washington Union School District just seems like a better fit for us. So, I know we aren't technically counted in the numbers right now because my children aren't old enough to be a part of the district, but I would like to just say, you know, my children's voices matter too.
Thank you.
Right, we have been going for 2 hours now, or almost 2 hours. We're gonna take just a quick break and come back in 8:20. That's 10 minutes. So,
Before you take the break, though,
Okay.
I need to make one correction for the record. I misread Terry's lovely note that she left me, and so I want to clarify so that the record is correct. The numbers that I read out initially were both public hearings. The second set of numbers were from all of the written correspondence that we received. And so the total from all of those and tonight's public comment, there are 46 people who have expressed opposition, and there are 52 people who have expressed support. So just wanted to correct that for the record. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to regroup here, thank you very much. We're going to start with the first item that we will be taking action on, which is item 5.1. And since we've already heard all of the public comment on the items related to these matters, it's just going to be deliberation and then the action taken by our board. Because Trustee John McPherson is the person who is from the area that's both Washington Union and Spreckles is in. I would like him to start us off with comments, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This is my life experience. Before I get into criteria 1, I want to give a little background. The question is, how did we get here? How did we get to these two under the state threshold small districts? Why is the map like this? Why wasn't this fixed before? And there is a reason for that. In 1988, not too far from here, down at the end of Schilling Place, Household Credit Services opened its doors. And for the next 25 years, it was a rocket ship. In the history of consumer financial services companies, it was one of the most successful consumer financial services companies ever. In 1990, late 93, early 94, when it was at its peak, it employed 5,000 people out of that facility. And those were 5,000 extremely good paying, extremely high benefit jobs. And where did those people live? Hundreds and hundreds of families in both districts, filling up the schools, on the foundation boards, volunteering in the classroom, running the 4-H clubs. That's how I got here. I grew up in Southern California. My mother saw an ad in the LA Times for a job at Household Credit Services, and I had no idea where Salinas was. I had to look it up on the map. But I moved up here, and this is where I started my family, and I moved into the community with my wife in 1998. And I, like many in this community, and I understand the arguments that have been made, but to me, it's one community, and it's always been one community. My kids went to both schools. No offense to the wonderful staff at Spreckles, but both of my kids' favorite teacher was Mr. Dew. And I had the high honor for 2 summers trying to keep a bearded dragon alive because my kids brought it home from Mr. Dew's class. There's nothing quite like coming home and finding out that your adorable little kid thought it would be a good idea to see if the cat wanted to play with the bearded dragon. But fortunately, we got through that. So both of my kids went to both, basically K through 5 in Washington Union, and then 6 through 9 at Spreckles. So, I've been there, experienced it. We used to joke because we'd have these family parties with household people, and there'd be, 30 of us, and we'd make a joke that, okay, next party, bring somebody who doesn't work for household. We were everywhere. Then in 2012, First Household sold to HSBC, then HSBC sold to Capital One, and Capital One moved the operation out of Salinas. Now that was bad, it wasn't fatal. And this is where things go sideways. And there are no villains in this room, but quite frankly, to me, there's a villain in this story. That's, at the time, was roughly 2,000 jobs that left. A responsible local government would have attempted to replace those 2,000 jobs with other private sector jobs. Household was the largest private employer in the county. So one would expect an effort would have been made to go out and recruit other businesses to come and occupy that space. And there were discussions with a couple other financial services companies who were very interested in it because it was a trained workforce. They knew how to collect and how to talk to customers and how to run fraud investigations and do all those things. But the president of the County Board of Supervisors at the time, Lou Calcagno, had no interest in that. He railroaded through a deal where basically the county bought the buildings and moved the county employees that they had from downtown Salinas out to that facility. So no new jobs, simply a matter of moving government jobs from downtown Salinas to that facility. I went because at the time, I was early on this board, but I could see this coming. You can't lose 2,000 jobs and not replace them and not have it have a huge impact on the local school district. So I went and I gave public comment. And Mr. Calcagno could not have been more dismissive or condescending. And so here we are. This is an issue that we're dealing with now. This is an issue that all of the districts in my trustee area are dealing with. Salinas City, Gonzales, these two districts, the high school district. It is something where it's a problem that's not going to get fixed. It's only going to be more of a challenge. And on top of that, McGraw-Hill left as well, which there were a lot of people who lived in McGraw-Hill, particularly who or worked at McGraw-Hill, who lived at Washington or lived in Washington Union District. So that's kind of how we got here, and now we're all kind of cleaning it up, so to speak. Okay, so that kind of gives you some background, and I hope it gives you some perspective on how I'm looking at this. So let's go to criteria number 1, which is my page. All right. The criteria in Ed Code is very simple. The reorganized districts will be adequate in terms of number of pupils enrolled. Will be adequate number of pupils enrolled. We've already discussed that in the state has set a floor of 901. So it does beg the question, well, if both districts, but particularly the district that's going to lose students, is under 901, why does basically the Ed Code allow us to even consider that? That's a very good question. It does, the Ed Code says there's no specific minimum or target numbers of pupils required. Although then it also says each district affected must be adequate in terms of numbers of pupils, and for elementary school districts, that minimum number is 901. Those two are somewhat in conflict, and that's why I think their fix has been to put in what we've talked about, that if there's an election for a district under 900, the district negatively affected must have the election be for everybody in the district. So that'll fix the problem. Problem with that is that those elections cost a couple $100,000. So, and that's a must for a small district which already has some financial difficulties. So I have an issue with that. But that would be, I would feel better if we were talking about an enrollment at Spreckles that was somewhat stable. And that is not the case, and that's why I do not think this criteria is met. In page 26 of our package, if you look at Spreckles enrollment in 2021 was 955. It then goes to 921, 918, and then under the threshold, 888, and 850 in those last 2 years. And that's with the inclusion of a new grade TK. That is basically a 15% drop in 5 years. If it drops another 15% in the next 5 years, down to 725 students. And is it realistic to think that it'll drop that in the next 5 years? Yes. Back to my story. I put 2 kids through the district. They're long gone. So me and my wife have a large house and are empty nesters. We're gonna be moving on in not the near future, but not the too distant future. That house isn't gonna sell for under $900,000. Are we gonna get kids or families moving into the district when the housing prices are like that and we lost all those great jobs? So I absolutely understand the charge that Christy was given. Take a snapshot. You said it very, very well. Take a snapshot of what is now, and that's what the evaluation is based on. But when I look at the run rate, this is both districts, and we understand, as we've said, that Washington has a very attractive option for addressing their issues. Both districts are in enrollment crisis. And so, I cannot, if the Titanic took 2.5 hours to sink, if you took a picture of it at about an hour and 10 minutes, it's still afloat. And that to me kind of feels where we're at. And so I cannot in good conscience say that criteria number 1, the reorganized districts will be adequate in terms of number of pupils enrolled, is met. And I thank you all for listening to me go through that, and I yield the floor to my fellow committee members.
Okay. Virginia, did you have your hand up? No. Oh, okay, sorry. Anyone else have a question or comment? Mary?
Yeah, I just need a clarification.
Yes.
Are we supposed to look at here and now, or are we supposed to speculate on what might be later? Because that's what John is saying. He's not looking at the facts that we see right here. He's saying that enrollment later down the road may look different. So I need clarification on, is it now, or do we speculate for later? Based on the education code is what I want to know.
Try to answer that. Yes, we're supposed to look at enrollment projections. Neither of the districts had enrollment projections, and so I asked for that and was not provided any. There's a big interplay with this inter-district attendance that's going on. For example, Spreckles send 59 kids to Washington on inter-district out, so that decreases their enrollment. At the same time, Salinas is sending 68 kids in. So all of these districts have a lot of inter-districts coming in and out. So it'd be difficult, frankly, to even project what board policies are gonna be amongst these districts. But looking in the here and now, we can see they're both direct service districts. If they pulled back their inter-districts to Washington and more than make up for the 20 or the 30 that would be going out. But again, that's the snapshot here today, okay.
And I think from a legal perspective, many of the criteria are forward-looking. In other words, it will be adequate in terms of pupils, will promote sound fiscal management. These are forward-looking criteria. Yes, Christy White's analysis is based on the facts she has today. But there's more than that going on here. There are trends, there are developments in the law of inter-district transfer in these days, and it is fair to look at the organization of your school districts in toto and consider those future impacts on those particular criteria. But you'll see many of them are forward-looking and not just backward-looking during.
So are you saying criteria one as we see it based on Christie's
Criteria,
documentation?
I think Trustee McPherson's analysis of the ambiguity of criteria one is certainly fair. The State Board in regulation has set a threshold of 901. Yet if you go through State Board minutes, you'll find that they often approve transfers involving districts that are smaller than 901. Your analysis is for right now, so your analysis is not that this will create a direct service district. They already exist. The question is, will that adequacy remain over time, resulting in a healthy fiscal and educational institution?
And I think it's important to note too that Christie's report did look forward or tried to look forward with projections, but those are based on assumptions that nobody knows whether those will happen or not. And there are so many assumptions in various different parts of the report, the fiscal analysis that we received, or the analysis that we received from her. So that's also to be taken into account. And so I think John's point though is that we're already below what the state would say is the minimum. And if a district continues to decline and they remain state funded or LCFF based, then they will continue to bleed and get less adequately funded over time if they continue to decline in enrollment. It's a little different for a district that becomes community funded. It's actually the opposite. If you lose enrollment, your per student funding goes up. And again, these are things that we have to consider as we're making this decision, because that may very well be happening with one of these two districts, is that one will be more adequately funded per student and the other less. It's just, or less, they will have less money because of their decline in enrollment. So that was John's point. Anyone else want to add any? Okay, we have to take this this item, this first item as an action item. Do I have a motion to about the petition and whether or not it substantially does or does not substantially meet the adequate enrollment criterion?
I'll move that the petition for transfer of territory from Spreckles Union School District to Washington Union School District does not substantially meet the adequate enrollment criteria.
Second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, although I will vote with that. That isn't, I'm not sure that that's the one that I would have voted to have a no on, but I understand what you were saying, so I appreciate that comment. Mary, did you vote? Okay.
Nay.
Nay, okay. So I think I had 5 of us vote yes and 1 nay. on that? Yeah, there were 5 of us. There's only 6 of us here tonight. So 5 of us, yes, 1 nay. So criteria 2 is whether or not the petition meets the community identity criterion. Does anyone want to speak on this matter? John, why am I surprised?
So,
He wants to say
yeah, I know, but yeah, again, this is my lived experience, so. I do believe that this criteria is met. These 2 districts literally overlap. Now, when Spreckles is open in 120 years ago, they didn't overlap. But now they do overlap. The kids are on, the same teams and all of that. And so, and it's been made very clear. It's a very good point. The line, where the line is now, is the closest school. Those who are right up against the line on the east side, the closest school is Toro Park. The high school district's going through the same issue right now, where they're trying to redraw all of their lines to try to make all the high schools have the same amount of enrollment. And so the line for East Salinas High, North High is coming closer and closer and closer to Salinas High. So I think the fact that the 2 districts overlap makes the criteria met. I do want to say on a personal note, I've been at this for 15 years now, and all of these transfers are exceptionally difficult because we're talking about kids. And when Dr. Gus came to me and said, "Though we have a petition, this petition," my heart just sank. Because if there wasn't animosity and conflict and friction, it would be the first time there wasn't animosity and conflict and friction in one of these things. So, regardless of how this works out tonight, regardless of what Washington Union decides, I really think it's incumbent upon all of us to look at this and work together and try to pull this back together. This is a completely reasonable petition. There's nothing unreasonable about the petition. How does it fit into the bigger picture is what I, as a trustee, am really looking at. But, this is, you said it perfectly. There's no villains in this room. Everybody's doing what they think is right. And once we get to the other side, because these challenges, those numbers that I just read for Spreckles, the challenges are the same for Washington Union. There are a lot of challenges going to a basic aid district. So, I was hoping I wouldn't have to be in this room for this thing before my term was up. But here we are, but I do ask and hope that everyone can, once we're done with this, put it behind them and work together again. So I will be much quieter for the rest of this meeting.
Okay. Okay, I think I heard, did you make a motion or did you actually just make comment?
I actually made a comment.
Okay.
I actually want to address the exclusion of the community or the condo area. I would like to see on this map, John, since you're sitting next to me, can you show me where that condo community is?
By the way, compliments for everybody and their Google Maps skills. The letters that we got and the maps were really impressive, and so now the pressure's on me. Okay. So here's the fire station.
Yeah,
So here, it's right.
The fire station is right here. Yeah.
Right, so it is right here.
Okay, and what's here?
It's a big one.
Oh,
So, yeah.
So it comes all the way to the
from the fire station, pretty much to this road right here, which to Creekside Terrace. This takes you into the park, so it's this right here.
Okay. And then on the houses then go all the way here. So there really isn't much of a separation between the housing.
I'm not sure what you mean by much.
But I mean, like,
No,
like, why was-
it
yeah.
basically goes, here's
why wasn't
the houses,
why wasn't
here's
this the divide?
here's the fire department, and then here's the condos.
Yeah, but so then my question is, why did we make this the divide? Why did we just this the divide? It's kind of my
I
question.
hope you're not asking me.
No, question. That's my question. Why was this particular community excluded from this when the obvious kind of line would be Reservation Road then? Is my
You're talking about the multifamily housing, project, or,
yeah, I must say.
or not project, but the multifamily housing
There was
community
a
that
name
it
of
was
it, and
named, is it Creekside?
Creekside.
And those, that is not in the petition area, and you're asking why?
Why? If we're under community, if we're saying this area that all of these kids ride and bike and it's better to commute, why was the line drawn at the fire station rather than on the more obvious Reservation Road?
I believe the petitioner spoke to it before, and I know you have the answer, so could you just give us a quick answer? Come up to the mic for us, please.
We did speak to it in the first public hearing. To us, first of all, we're two parents doing this. This isn't our specialty, this wasn't something we ever thought we would be doing. I stopped having kids is why it happened at this time, but the condos is another big area to go for. And to be honest, we do have respect for both districts, as we stated, and we knew going for that area was too much. And so that is why we stopped there. And we didn't want to go get extra signatures, it was a clear line to us that it was ending at Toro 1. That's what we were willing to take on as two parents, and we had spoken to the people in our neighborhood that we live close to, and that's where we ended.
And basically, because of the definition of the petition, which is 25% of the people who reside in that area, by adding a whole nother area, I believe is what you had said to us before, you would have had to have, I don't remember how many more signatures, but it was a lot more.
We don't know how many.
It was a lot, yeah, so it was a lot more, so that's why they drew the line where they did.
So my question is are we doing the right thing for the community by just drawing another arbitrary line?
And that's up to us. That's up to us. So that was what they chose to do, and the petition is what's in front of us.
I understand that, I'm just raising that as
Absolutely.
We're just drawing another arbitrary line where we're just saying, here it is, where they said 20 years ago, here it is. So.
Right, and
we're
yeah.
fixing the problem.
That's right, that's possible, I think what the problem was that when all of these were drawn more than 20 years ago, it was, done before most of these developments were built. And that's so the developments were built and the lines were not changed at the census times. That would have been the appropriate time, but it wasn't done, so now that's why it's in front of us. Sandra, did you want to add something or ask something?
Yes, may I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to address the audience tonight by saying thank you so much for being here tonight, being so late. And second of all, like my colleagues are expressing themselves, how hard of an issue it is. But based upon community identity, going back with criteria number 2, we've been hearing all through the night, school community identity and school community identity. And then I'm hearing division, chaos, taking from one district, taking from the poor to give to the rich, solving this problem based upon the poor. All of the money that is going to be taken away from taking those 30 students from Spreckles to Washington. And at the same hand, I can see both districts facing the deficit, Spreckles 16+ and Washington 8+. So my question to both of you districts is, what are you guys doing to yourself? You're becoming a divisive community, you know? And because of what? Based upon what? What's the benefit of the doubt? Create a private identity community where my kids only go to this district because I live in this district? And the opposite is saying, no, we need your help. You know, we don't want to lose our enrollment. But we need your enrollment, for God's sake, so we can continue online and serving our community. So even though, you know, the criteria says it all that you're probably mad at, but according to what I'm hearing tonight, it's not my responsibility to vote a yes or no on this issue. If it was up to me, I will have my constituencies input and the voters' input in making this a decision making, but not me. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Do I have a motion? Oh, Virginia. Can you put your mic up and turn it on?
I have a question for a couple that started this movement, so to say. Who is the first, I'm not pointing to you because I hear from you first, but who is the person that started with this idea to have this exhibition here tonight?
Our neighborhood. We wouldn't have started if it was just our two families. I mean, you've seen what we've been put through 3 meetings. We went and talked to our neighbors before we even started it. It was the two of us that were asked to start and follow through with it.
I'm asking for the first or the name of the first person.
I don't know what you mean by that. The person.
Who had the idea to start this? I know you started collecting signatures, but who had the idea to start with this?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna can I try and answer and see if this makes sense? Virginia, were you asking who came up with the idea of it, not just who started getting signatures, but who came up with the idea of it?
That was the question.
Right, okay, so who?
It was us.
It was the.
And parents.
Okay, so you felt that your community asked you to proceed with this and you took the ball and ran with it. It was only the two of you because you were willing to do that and you found out it was a lot of work and you really had to do a lot.
I believe what I saw was there could only be 2 petitioners. As far as like, it's either, information is very vague.
Oh, right, okay.
On doing the whole petition.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you stepped up to help lead the charge. Right. Does that answer your question, Virginia?
Only one is the name of the first person. That's fine.
I think it's the two of them.
Yeah, you could say it's the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say. We have the word like the ones that started.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, do I have a motion on this particular item?
I'll move.
Okay, move.
That does meet the budget.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No. I don't think I need to, is that correct? Okay.
Second.
Can I have a motion and a second? All in favor say aye.
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 Say nay.
Nay.
2 nays, 4 ayes. Okay, criterion 3, comments. It's the one about the equitable division of property and facilities. Okay, does anyone have comments? I have a comment. I have to say that on this particular one, it struck me as highly, it seemed unfair to me that that one district is losing the territory, losing the students, and then also had to pay some of its money to the other district. So that would mean Spreckles would have to pay, and Ms. White came up with a number based on percentages, et cetera, of approximately $200,000. So in addition to losing the AV and the LCFF associated with the ADA, and the bonding capacity and everything else that goes with that, the Spreckles would have to share its assets that went with the students that live in the territory. And she did it by proportion, and it was approximately $200,000. I think that there's a way to do it more equitably, possibly. I would still say that it could be done so that the petition could meet the criteria. But I would, since the county committee has the ability to affect how much would be deemed as fair, I think the equitable division would be zero payment, in my opinion, because they're losing everything. And although they will have supposedly fewer expenditures because of the fewer students, they also will have lower other things. Especially if Washington Union goes community funded, they will have additional property values to make the difference up. And so I believe that seemed unfair, but that's my comment. I think it does meet, but I would not give the money in the sharing of the division of property. I would not give money from one district to the other.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So what you're saying is you would say it meets, but you would put a rider on it.
Right, correct.
Can we ask legal counsel if that's something that we can do?
Yeah, we can. I mean, I already checked and I was told that it was okay for me to propose that. And that often committees are allowed to do that because they want to help even out the transfer. So that was my particular proposal to all of you.
Maybe you just give me a great idea, and I don't know if it is possible or not.
Okay.
But since we're giving, supposedly, taking into consideration that we don't pay our programs. So, the money that is being given from Spreckles to Washington Middle School, is there any way the legal counsel can help us to draft like the guidelines, whether instead of giving them 50%, of that money, we will split it and leave 50% into Spreckles and get 50% into Washington? Do you understand me?
Kind of, except for this is money. What's being said here is that the money not property taxes, actual general fund revenues and money that's in the ending fund balance of Spreckles would be given to Washington Union. So it's not property taxes, it's not future, it's money that it is.
Once it becomes funded in every school site, that money becomes categorical and non-categorical, right?
I'm not sure I'm following you.
If every district receive their ADA funding, or school beginning, and they know how much they're gonna receive, okay? What Spreckles is losing in ADA to Washington, I'm saying if it is possible to keep
I don't think you can do that. No, I don't think you can take away money.
I'm gonna legal counsel, this is what I'm asking my question.
Excuse me, Trustee Ocampo, I'm understanding your question now. At this point, I don't think the county committee has the authority to apportion the LCFF, the state funding that comes from the student. I think what our chair is talking about are the funds on hand in the general fund. And there are some criteria that are set forth in code, but the county committee, in approving plans and recommendations, which is what you are doing now, has authority to make other divisions that are equitable, that achieve greater equity than what may just be set forth in the black letter law. So if I understand you correctly, Chair Stepp, there are a number of losses to Spreckels, and perhaps a fair outcome would be that while the children transfer and the LCFF as well as the AV and the bonding capacity, these funds that are currently with Spreckels would remain with Spreckels. Also because the difference to Washington Union is made up in the calculation of the basic aid, the community funding. So it's a fairness. Yeah. But not the state funding, the state determines that.
Let me ask you, in your personal opinion, facing a situation like this one tonight, dealing with two districts, taking away from the other district, okay, what has been your experience? What kind of an input is we as the board?
I think you're doing a great job. But let me tell you, I think you're talking about issues that are of concern to you. One of the things that the state board always asked districts, or did in the past, these things don't go to the state board any longer. Are you prepared to negotiate so that there can be fairness? And they would be asked by staff, are you prepared to negotiate the handling of assets, liabilities, funds, and obligations? That's set forth in code. I believe our chair has commented that the condition is met with equitable adjustments with regard to general fund monies.
And this is precisely why I ask you those questions, because the equitable,
Yes.
you mentioned just a while
I
ago,
did, yes.
is not happening here. I can see just one single community build up upon another community.
Yeah,
So
I
hopefully.
yeah, I understand what you're saying there.
And this is why, Madam Chair, with all my respects to you, I must close my speech by saying the transferring, cannot be done, in my opinion, because it's gonna cause substantial negative effects on the physical status of the affected district, which is Spreckels. That's all.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
if you were willing to make a motion
I will,
for this criteria, incorporating those things that you stated,
okay?
I would be willing to second.
Okay. I'd like to say that criterion 3 for the petition for transfer does substantially meet the equitable division of property and values criterion, with the caveat that I believe to help make it more equitable, that the it was an estimated $200,000 or so that would go from Spreckels Union's general fund balance to Washington Union not occur. So there would not be a transfer of money from Spreckels to Washington Union to make it more equitable. Because the assessed valuation, this ADA, all of that is gonna go to Washington Union, to their benefits, bonded indebtedness.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Can all ayes say aye? Aye. Aye. Okay. Did you vote aye? Okay, 6, you got 6. All right, 6-0 on that one. Number 4, the criteria 4 is about the non-segregation criteria. Does anyone have comments on that? Do I have a motion for it?
Move to, that it does meet.
Does meet, okay. I have a motion that it does meet the criteria. Do I have a second?
Yeah, well, I'll second it. Okay,
Second, and then, do you have a comment?
yes, I have a quick one. It says non-segregation, that means that they will have all kinds of diversity among them, right? This looks like. Right. No. I just wanted to
Confirm what that meant.
Non-segregation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, transfer of students, whether that would do that. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think we got another 6-0. Criteria 5, is the one about increase in the cost to the state. Because the state is already paying these monies, I think that this one was met substantially, in my opinion.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is number 6.
Number 5.
I move that the petition for transfer of territory from Spreckles Union School District to Washington Union School District does substantially meet the insignificant or incidental state cost criteria.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Just a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You're talking about criteria number 6, right?
No, criteria number 5.
Number 5. Oh, yeah, the one that says
It's about the state monies, the effect on the state funding.
I see that one. That is, just point for clarification. Someone asked a comment about the incidental state cost, Judy John. And what was the response?
I don't think there was a question on it, but
there was, if for example, if I recall well, if for example, they had to go to a general voting, who will end up paying for the cost of that side effects?
That has nothing to do with this. The election is a separate issue. So that's not, we shouldn't be thinking about that
Okay,
yet.
so the state is gonna be free, amenities, and it's cost?
The state would have to make up any difference between the loss of the ADA or the ADA that goes to Washington Union. The difference that's made up of the way a state-funded district is, which is what Spreckles would be, the difference would be paid by the state, but it is very insignificant for the state. It's a minor amount. And also, if, as Washington Union stays state-funded for a period of several years at least, because of the 3-year averaging rule, that would not affect the state at all for those 3 years. So it's a 0 effect initially. Okay? I have a motion and a second. All in favor of criteria 5?
Aye.
Aye. Did everyone vote? Okay. All 6? Aye. Criteria 6 about the sound educational performance and non-disruption of educational programs. Any comments, questions, discussion?
We did have a presentation from Spreckles where they laid out pretty clearly that, but we already said they don't, where they laid out pretty clearly that the approximately $200,000 funding annually from LCFF, you guys correct me if I got this wrong, would have either an impact to their counselors or intervention.
Intervention programs, 241,000.
Right. Yeah, so if we're gonna take the district at the word that that's what they would need to do, I would say that this criteria is not met.
Mr. Chris, can I just clarify?
Yes.
So those would be programs that would be on the chopping block. I don't want to say those, we decided on those programs specifically.
Right, but those
are the types of, yeah, that's when we started to see.
Right, the board would, their board, Dr. Hasegawa and his fellow board members would have to make that decision as to what to cut, but the 241,000 would result in because of their small budget size, it feels significant to them and that it would significantly.
Can I ask a very simple question? So what Spreckles is saying is you do not have the breathing space to absorb a $200,000 reduction without affecting some program in reduction in program delivery.
Absolutely. We've already started the conversation about this program before. This just compounded.
So I think I had heard that you're declining in enrollment anyway, so because of that, this would just exacerbate the situation. Yes, Mary?
Can you help me understand, we did at number 5, we took 200,000 out, I thought.
That was a different 200,000. There was 200,000 that was being actually transferred from the reserves of Spreckles to Washington Union possibly as an equitable division of assets. But in this case, this would be the loss of LCFF funding because of the loss of the ADA, which is a different. This one's actually about, they estimated, I think, 241,000 in the most recent information that we were given this evening. That's ongoing that they would be losing. The 200,000 was a one-time transfer from one to the other. Any further? Yes.
So what you're saying is the local control funding formula is single hands?
Sorry. Good question.
What I'm getting here, okay, that you are in good shape.
Right now?
Yes.
No.
No. If you were going into any elections, you have the money to go for any elections? Campaign for?
We don't. We're running a deficit for the next 3 years. Any unexpected expenses are back. But if this has to go to election, the board is committed to seeing that process through because we don't want to lose programs, lose kids.
And by the way, just to clarify on the election costs, I think we've been quoted by the county elections office that it would be more on the order of about 50,000 for the size of Spreckles, not 200,000. So, or whatever.
I said
200,000, I thought
Okay,
Don
correct.
said. Yeah, I just want to clarify that, I forgot until just now. So, but on the matter of whether or not the district, the Spreckles district really is the one we're talking about here because they would be the one losing the LCFF funding. I heard John's comment, I don't think it was a motion. Do we have a motion, Virginia?
Yeah, may I have a comment, please?
Can you turn on your mic, please? Thanks.
I was thinking not to speak, but then there is one thing that I think we're forgetting here. At least I don't want to forget that. What I'm sitting here for is for the children. You know your numbers, and you're in a deficit already. If this keeps going, you're gonna be in a worse situation on your numbers. And the problem is not the report on the paper. The problem is the children that will not receive the correct education that they should receive if this whole thing was not happening. We should be working with you and see how we can get those real numbers into real numbers. Not the other way around. So I'm really concerned about that. I'm concerned about the education of those children.
Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Let me make it.
Make sure we know this
Make sure that you're here, you know what you're seconding. I move that the petition for the transfer of the territory from Spreckles Union School District to Washington Union School District does not substantially meet the sound educational performance and non-disruption of education programs criteria.
And you second that motion, okay? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm really sorry what I'm gonna have to say, even though you second that,
Yeah,
I wanna say nay.
nay, okay, all right? Okay, I think that was 5-1. Okay, criteria 7 on whether there was insignificant or incidental school housing costs, that the transfer would meet that criteria. Because there is no transfer of facilities, there is no, this criteria is met. So I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Does anyone have any? It does meet, correct. Does anyone have any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Number 8 is, was this proposed reorganization primarily designed for purposes other than to significantly increase property values? I think it was very clear from the petition that this had nothing to do with property values, so I think it was met.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, my comment is we've heard a lot, and we saw that in the comment about, well, if you have Washington Union go basic aid at the funding of $18,000 a student versus Spreckles, which is much less, that could have an impact on housing. It may or may not, but this was it their motive?
Was their petition.
Was that their intent? And I think we've definitely established that was not the case.
Go ahead. I make a motion that it does. Do I have a second? Second? I second stuff. Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
6-0. And then, I can't hear you because your mic's not on. I'm sorry. Did you? I was waiting for you to say no. I thought you said, are you no? Okay, no on increased property values, okay? If 5-1. Criteria 9 is will this continue to promote sound fiscal management and not cause a substantial negative effect on the fiscal status of the proposed district or any existing district? So any comments on this?
I think this relates back to item 6, that this district Spreckles will struggle with this.
I have a comment as well. One of the community members, and this is something that I had circled, was reorganization will continue to promote sound fiscal management. Promote the general welfare, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and so I think that word is important. It's not just a matter of, will they survive? Will they be able to survive, not survive, but thrive? And I would agree with the comments made that this criteria is not met. Oh, okay, what you wanted in the motion?
I made a motion.
I said.
Okay, Virginia made the motion that it is not met, and John seconded. Does anyone have any further comment?
Can you read the motion first, please?
The motion was that the item on substantially meeting the continuation of sound fiscal status, that this petition does not meet that criteria. Do you have any further? Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. I don't need to make further comments. Let's take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, 1 nay. 5 yeses, 1 nay. Okay, so because I couldn't write while I was talking, can you read back to me what the criteria were and whether we voted yes or no? Did you take notes as we were doing?
Yes. So criteria 1 was does not meet. Criteria 2 was a does meet. Criteria 3, does meet. Criteria 4, does meet. Criteria 5, does meet. And criteria 6, does not meet. Criteria 7, does meet. And criteria 8, does meet. Criteria 9, does not meet.
So we have several criteria, and I still didn't take notes because I was thinking, sorry, as you were going through that. However, we have been told by legal counsel that if one or more of the criteria are not substantially met, then we have a strong reason to disapprove the petition, and there were how many not met? Three, okay, so we had 3 that did not meet, that we individually did. So we have to vote now on the overall petition. Do we support the petition, or do we find that because we have found that several criteria are not substantially met, that the requirements for approval are not satisfied?
I don't think we should approve it because it's 30% that we know qualified.
Okay, yeah, so we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
To not approve. Not approve, okay, second. Any further comment on it? Okay, seeing none. Let's, all in favor of that? Aye. Did you vote, Mary? Aye.
We don't have to us this long. But I mean, we have 3 that we said did not meet.
I know,
so we kinda
but I just want to make sure we all, and no names, so 6-0 for that. And I want to add to the petitioners that I appreciate all the work that you did. And I think we heard tonight that it wasn't because we didn't think that this was a valid effort on your part and valiant effort on your part. It took a lot of effort, and we really looked carefully at this. This was not something any of us took lightly at all. And we realized that you did this for your children and your neighbors' children, and that's really important. I hope, as John said earlier and others have alluded to, that the community can heal, because that's, I think what's most important to us is all of the students in both districts. And we want to make sure that the best possible education is provided in both areas, and that friends aren't lost and families aren't broken apart about this. We put a lot of effort on this. Does anyone else want to make a comment? Sandra?
I'd also like to echo Annette's words and see how much work you guys can put together. And realizing that, at least from my own perspective, is I don't like to divide anyone. I like to treat everyone with respect. It's like that we wish to be treated. I like to be, but when you begin to tie different kinds of cows among ourselves, I think it's for me, it's so hard to continue to see so much division among the nation. That I wish you well, and as John mentioned a while ago, he's been here longer than I have. He has seen lived through different experiences, and so with that in mind, I'd like to thank both parties, Spreckles Union District members and staff, as well as Washington Union members and staff and parents. God bless you.
Thank you all for coming. We have to continue with the rest of our agenda. So I'm going to moment for all of you to leave, unless you want to stay, because these are really fun meetings. Thank you. All right, so. The last item on our agenda is the adoption of Resolution 252601, approving the San Lucas Union School District's proposal to reduce board size from 5 to 3 members. And we have the public hearing on this, was it a week ago now? More than a week, okay. And we have received, just as we did on the last item, we received public comment from.
It's a packet for each board member.
Oh, right, these are the emails that we received, but they're printed out for you as well. And I see at least a few people in the audience who are here to speak to this item.
We have 2.
We have 2. Okay, so we're gonna hear public comment and know that the emails that were received.
We got one more from there.
From what?
From there.
Oh,
You
right
got-
here.
that's that.
Sorry. Didn't know. We didn't pass you enough. So the emails received are a part of the record on this item as well. And we have 2 people here who are here to speak to this item, so are we gonna do that first?
Yes, I did just want, for the record, we did get an email from San Lucas because there was a question as to whether or not the information was posted. And we do have an email showing a copy of a picture that was taken to prove that it was posted. Also, the written public comment that we just passed down from these 3 individuals, one is also here to speak orally, and then you also have her written public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
Are you ready for me to call the 2?
Yes, unless does anyone have any questions before we proceed?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. I gotta say something. When we attended at this board meeting, the lack of community input was hardly there. And to me, there's lack of community voice representation. When you bring an issue like this with this capacity, it's sad to see that. You know, I rely a lot on my community input in whatever I do and share. But that is an issue that I don't know how you guys felt. Yes, and I understand. I mean, they complained about being 5 board members and only 3 was actively involved. But there was something missing and that was the community input. So I just want to share that with you guys. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm concerned if they move from 5 to 3, so what the quorum would be there to be seen.
Correct.
Wait, what?
What would the quorum be if we move from 5 to 3?
2.
Goes from 3 to
It
2.
would be 2. And right now, just so you know, because the number of board members is 5, right now the quorum for them is 3. And because the quorum is 3, you also have to vote unanimously at all times in order to make any decision. So for every decision, you have to have 100% of 3 if only 3 are there. If you have 4 people there, you still only need 3, or if you had all 5. But we heard the testimony last time in the public hearing about the ability to
have more than 3 attend. Is that correct? What I stated was correct, is that right? Oh,
But you also
Yay.
have your lawyer.
since we have an attorney.
That's correct.
Okay. Does that make sense? Mary?
Yeah, I was just reading through the emails that we just received, and it looks like most of these people oppose reducing it from 5 to 3.
Correct.
So if that's the case, it seems like there'd be some people within the community that they could tap into to maintain the 5. I honestly don't think 3 members on a board is sufficient. And that if they could possibly keep the 5, it would make more sense to me and be more fair to the community as a whole. I understand they're probably having trouble getting 5 members, but if they only have 3, then it may be even worse to try to get meetings together. Because if you only have 2 people, you still can't have a meeting, correct?
Yeah, no, you can't.
No, you can't, because then it's a quorum.
Well, 2 is even worse than 3, because I don't think 2 people should be making the decisions as far as the entire community. But if that's what they wanna propose, and we have to make a decision on it, I guess we'll stop.
Thank you, Christy.
So anyway, I just don't think 3 is sufficient.
Madam Chair, I think what I can see is from where I heard over the end of the presentation is that that district.
I know, maybe we should hear public hearing, our public comment first before we deliberate.
Okay.
Or give our comments. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. Cause they're here, and I think we should hear them first before we make our comments.
No biggie.
Okay, thanks.
The first speaker is Alondra Perez, followed by Monique Ross.
And thank you for being here so late. Hello, thank you.
I'm sorry, my voice is a little shaky, I'm running nervous. I was really hoping Mrs. Ross would get to go first. So my name is Alondra. I have been at San Lucas for 4 years as an instructional aide. And I'm going to give my opinion and say that I oppose this reduction from 5 board members to 3. As an employee, I think it's very obvious why I would want more. I want more opinions because board members, have the ability to dictate my employment status and kind of the environment of my workplace. So that is my perspective as a staff member. When our CSEA rep, Tino, came to talk to us about when this was first introduced, there are 9 CSEA members. It was a unanimous vote that we did not want the reduction because we felt more opinions, more people, it was just a better odds for us and it was fair. We felt like 3 people specifically, the 3 people who were already there kind of have a one-sided opinion and always decide on the same thing and but I feel like San Lucas has really been a place for me to grow. I'm 23 years old, so I've been there 4 years. I feel like I've grown with the kids. I've seen a lot of groups go by and I feel very happy with that, but I feel like I would be selfish to come up here and not really advocate for our kids. That's who I really care about. And in my letter, I mentioned that I am the eldest of 3 daughters and I have a sister who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So the enrollment process when she was signing up for school was a little bit difficult because schools didn't have all of the resources that my sister required. And I just kind of tie that into how lucky our kids really are to have a small community where if they have more board members, they have the opportunity and the chance for an adjustment to be made in their favor and for things to just be easier for them. But yeah, I think we just had a very difficult time last year because there was an MDC and then Mr. Lomeli made the claim that nobody was really running or wanting to fill in those vacant spots, and I completely disagree. Vicente and Herminio actually were interviewed for the vacant position, and I genuinely know and I've heard from people that they are interested in running. I think that it's just what Mrs. Ross mentioned in the last meeting, that the community is afraid or they feel insecure. And I think it's true because I didn't step up that day because I felt insecure and I felt nervous and I thought, well, these are board members who have talked to so many people. What if my opinion isn't really what they're looking for? They want data, they want real things that Mrs. Ross can provide them with. But you, Virginia Mendoza, shared your opinion and said, we drove an hour and only Mrs. Ross spoke, and I didn't want to do that again. For myself, but also for the kids. I think that it's important for them to have the ability and the chance for more people to listen to them who are open-minded and, they just have more people to listen to them. So I know I'm over my time, but thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Monique Ross.
Good evening, committee members. I would like to address what you had said about not having more community members here. And I want to touch back on the last meeting that we had where I said it wasn't posted. And I now know that it was posted, but it wasn't posted for the teachers and the staff members in a place where we would have seen it. I want to just tell you about how we just had a listening session with Chris Lopez, and flyers were sent out 2 weeks in advance, sent home with the students, and then flyers were sent home again the day of the listening session. And I would talk to the students about how important it was to come to the listening session. And we had half a cafeteria full of people at that listening session with Chris Lopez because the information was given to the community. We had students, we had parents, we had community members, we had staff members. They were there, they care, they need to know about this meeting. They can't be here if they don't know about it. And you can say, well, it was posted 10 days in advance at the post office, the library, and outside of the school. You can say it was posted in the Herald. I don't even know what city, county, where the Herald is. I don't read that, I don't know what that is. So I understand that the postings were there, but our community, the San Lucas community, didn't know about it. So they are not going to show up to a meeting that they don't know about. I only heard about the meeting 2 days in advance because it was on Estella's desk and I just happened to read the information.
I'm so sorry, but yeah, please finish your sentence, and also do know they got the letter. So everything that I think you wanted to say is also in that letter. So don't feel cut short.
There is one detail that was edited out of the letter. I have a hard time with writing. I second guess myself all the time. One thing that was edited out is that back when Jessica Riley was our superintendent, she also proposed the reduction of the school board from 5 to 3 at a school site council meeting. And at that school site council meeting, we also rejected the proposition. So this is not the first time this is coming around. They have had every opportunity to put it in the general election for a vote if they wanted to. They don't want to. Please read my letter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now, Sandra, you want
Yeah, my point was going to be that, that union, the presentation, the trustees, the input, it was obviously not the whole community. And I think St. Lucas, could be well orchestrated and I believe in fair justice, I believe in elections, I believe more than appointees electing someone who's good for that board, who comes something in between to share, to learn, to grow, to develop. Because when you appoint someone, to me, it could be nepotism, favoritism, and so the representation of the interest of the education of our kids has been blinded because the control is in the three. And so to me, it's unacceptable. So I could see, the recommendations of 3 to 5, because all these things that are happening, but I question how can they learn how to work together as a board? And instead of saying, we're having a hard time, well, let's look at the superintendent and let's look at someone else for help to help us to recruit someone to put news on the Herald. Hey, you're welcome to try to apply for this election. And nevertheless, open it up to the community input, to the public. Because I don't think because it's such a little town, it deserves to have nepotism no more, or control no more. I think freedom of speech and our representation of our kids and the staff is what I respect. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's my colleagues.
Yeah, and, we're all in agreement. Ideally, it should be a 5-person board for all the things that Sandra just said. But I can play a little bit of devil's advocate of what the reality is. And it's somewhat, connected to what we've been through, and what we're going through is declining enrollment. People are leaving. The pool of potential board members is shrinking. So what happens if we say, no, leave it at 5, do better, and they go out and they try, but they get the same results? And how many are on the board right now?
Terry, how many are?
There's 2 open positions, I believe, right now.
So there are 3 people on the board right now, which means that in order for them to do anything, all 3 have to be there for a quorum, and all 3 have to be in agreement in a vote. And I can understand where that's a problem, because if those things don't happen, then the business isn't done. I would argue that it's not fair to the superintendent, because now the superintendent's like, hey, we need to do something, and 2 people showed up, or all 3 of them showed up and the vote is 2-1. Well, then nothing happens. Now, I could also argue that going from 5 with 3 being a quorum to 3 with 2 being a quorum isn't that much different. But it obviously is, because they only got 3 people on the board right now. They can spend their time trying to recruit somebody else to get on the board, but while that's happening, if they're not successful, they are hamstrung in what they can do as a board, because they need all 3 to be there and they need all 3 to agree. So I'm going to go with whatever the committee decides, because I think, I can argue that more is better, but the reality of the situation is, if they can't do better, then they're hurting the school, because nothing can get done, and as we've said, that hurts the students.
I'll make a motion to reject the petition of San Lucas trustees from 3 to 5.
To revoke from 3 to 5?
No, I'm going to reject it, to not adopt it.
For 3.
For 3, I was 5.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Were you gonna say something also, Virginia?
No, I just wanted to be sure that she was saying 5 to 3.
Yes.
We recently did this with, Big Sur, what was that, 3 years ago?
The next year.
The senior reasons. That's a murder correctly.
Okay, anyone else have comments or questions?
And I'm sorry, just for the record, Sandra made the motion, who seconded it?
Virginia seconded.
Sorry.
Any more comments or questions?
I can make a comment to the people that are represented this here tonight. I really encourage you to go out in the community and talk to people. Doesn't matter how long it will take. I know that the people that are against moving from 5 to 3, any of those people might be able to help on the board. I always tell people, don't complain, go take the chair and work on it. So I think you guys can organize a group of parents and a lot of people are scared to be part of a board. I was scared the first time. It took me a while to say, okay, I help. But then now that I've been, in person many years, I tell people, well, that's okay. You can be scared, it's okay. The question is if you're willing to learn to be a good foreman. That's the question. And there will be plenty of people that will help. So that's my advice to you, go into the community and talk to the parents.
Extra help. Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone say no? No.
So it's 3-2 without me?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I say, well, it doesn't matter, if I say no,
You say no,
then it doesn't pass and they stay at 5. If I say yes, it stays at 5. So I will say yes, we keep it at 5.
all right?
Thank you. Thank you.
You made me worry.
Not, there would be not in that. Yes, adjourning the meeting.
Hit that gavel.
Yes.